It's you against the events more so than you against the other people. You want to win, but you want to win because you were stronger, because you were better, because you prepared better, as opposed to winning because they made a mistake. It allows you to be supportive of other people because it's you in the event.
What? I'm just like, if you have a broken, does it qualify?
Oh my God.
Uncircumcised cat. I broke my, it's crooked. Doesn't qualify. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. All right, guys, we're back with another episode of Table Talk. Today, my guest is Chris Vachio. Say that right?
Yep.
All right. And Ilya will be co-hosting again. Before I I'll just state that you're a veteran strength athlete with over 40 years experience.
That
and
sounds
I'm,
right.
and I'm gonna jump off with a question before we kind of get into how you got into all this stuff that I know you've been asked before. We've all been asked this before, but this one hits a little bit different because yesterday somebody sent me a YouTube video, was one of the Westside training videos, and I was doing my dynamic work in there. Yeah. And then when I saw it, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I would have done some things different.
Very different.
You know what I'm saying? But normally when you're asked this, right? Hey, if you could go back and speak, it's a stupid, I get it. It's a dumb question, right? If you could go back and talk to your 20-year-old self, what would you say? But I think I'm going to reframe it a little different. If we had access to the video footage that the up-and-comers have access to, that we could go back and then look at that footage, what are some of the things that you would have definitely done different? For example, I didn't brace for shit in any of these squats that I did. Strong, yeah, right, but I didn't let the bar settle. I didn't brace. My mouth is wide open the whole time, and I'm like, "What are you doing, man?" Like, if you came to one of my own clinics right now, I would just rip your ass apart.
Let alone 20 years, 8 years. I realized I've been doing it wrong for 8 years.
Exactly. Now it's like, now if somebody asks me that question, it's like check. So what would be some of the ones that pop up in your head? Because you've been around forever.
I would have started squatting and deadlifting earlier. I kind of veered away from that. I was doing it in high school some because everybody else is, I'm a very contrarian person by nature. So with everybody else hogging the bench press, I'm like, all right, well, screw you guys. I'm going to go over and squat. Mm-hmm. I did that for a few years, and then I had, I just went down too fast. What I realize now is it was just, the stretch reflex, and just my quads were like, oh, this is too fast. Goodbye. Mm-hmm. And so I collapsed down, and I'm like, oh, my knees are bad, so I better stop squatting. So I stopped squatting for like 5 years. Mm-hmm. It's like, didn't really deadlift much. So I would have done some heavier lower body compound movements that I didn't do as much early on. So, and just better technique.
Now in high school, you wrestled and played football, right?
Just wrestled.
Just wrestled.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. And so I'm going to suppose, because we've been around for a while, that appealed to you a little bit more because your own work would pay off.
Yes.
Where for myself on a team sport, so no matter how hard I worked, it didn't matter.
If somebody else screwed up, I still lost.
In my head.
Yeah. No matter how well you did. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I could have had the game of my life, and the guy on the other side of the line could have forgotten to block. Yeah. That would have been it for, and that's, I hated that.
So being from Ohio, when did you start wrestling? Because this is a big wrestling.
Oh, yeah. Back in, 80.
Like, how old were you? Like 6?
No, I didn't.
They start young. I mean, they start young, man.
No, I actually didn't get into wrestling until my 8th grade year.
Really?
Yeah, I started in 8th grade, and as with so many things in my life, it was mostly just for kind of a stupid reason. I was a really fat kid growing up, and I had a huge growth spurt, and I lost a bunch of weight in between over the summer of 7th going into 8th grade. Mm-hmm. I grew like 6 inches, and I lost like 30 pounds. Nobody recognized me when I walked in people were coming up and introducing themselves to me that had known my whole.
All right, so you were the kid that grows out then.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I just wanted to do something to not get fat again. Mm-hmm. It's the only reason I got into wrestling. as, oh, you know what, it's good activity. I can do this and I can not get fat again. So that was really it. And then I got, oh, wait a minute. I can beat the piss out of somebody and get a trophy. This is cool. Yeah. So that was that.
How did it help your confidence overall?
Helped a lot, actually. Yeah. It helped a lot. Once I figured out, once I got some good coaching and once I knew what the hell I was doing. And, I was very, I just dove into it head first and tried to learn as much as I possibly could. And I was actually doing a lot of video analysis back then, where I'd try and get video on my, on the old shitty cameras, and then I'd sit down with people that knew what they were doing and watch the videos with them and like, okay, here, what did I do wrong? Here, what did I do right?
So did your junior high split? Did it start at 8th grade? Because mine started at 7th.
No, it's, we were 6th through 7th.
Okay. So you were
6th, 7th, and 8th.
Okay.
Yeah. Started in 8th grade. Did reasonably well in 8th grade. Then went freshman wrestling. I got my ass handed to me most of the year. I was cutting weight to get on varsity, which, okay, I got my varsity letter, but I was like 3 and 14 that year and just got abused.
Did you have the whole wrestle off process and all that? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the guy that was in the class right above me was like a solid state qualifier. And, I tried, but there was no way in hell I was beating him with my skill level at the time. So, but we had an open class below there. Nobody else who was any good was able to get that low. So yeah, I wrestled 132.
Okay.
Freshman, which I always joke, I'm literally twice the man I used to be. I graduated high school at 160. And so I was the other. I would have played football if I had any idea I could get to be this size. But I always just assumed I was too small to play football. So I just was like, oh, well,
Well, there are other positions.
Yeah, right? But I wanted to be one of the ones where I was going to knock somebody's head.
There's only one that counts.
Well,
I want
a cornerback and safety. You're knocking the shit.
Right. And that's
those are glorified positions. Everyone knows it's about the front line.
I wanted to be a linebacker. I loved my favorite player was Lawrence Taylor. I loved watching him Lawrence Taylor and Earl Campbell were my two favorite people. Yeah. Watching them grow up. And
Earl Campbell was one of that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, just plowing through.
And so he's watching Lawrence. So that's what I wanted to take people's heads off like Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm like 100 pounds lighter than Lawrence. So I probably can't do that. I better find something else to do.
My memory doesn't serve me as what it used to, but I believe there was one Super Bowl you may remember where Earl Campbell was on Dallas, right?
No, he was in Houston.
In Houston.
Yeah.
And basically just took the game over at halftime and just plowed people. It was unbelievable. It's just like, give it to him again. He's just running people over, man. It just went through them.
Watching how many shirts the man lost. It's like somebody grab on his shirt to try and drag him down and the jersey just pull right off and he just keep going. Yeah. It runs into the end zone wearing nothing but shoulder pads.
Now for the wrestling, were you weight training?
Yeah, we did. That's I had gotten into it. I got in weight training actually years prior. My dad got one of those old weeder sets, the sand filled weights and everything. And I was 10 years old and I was into BMX racing, and I was looking through the magazine that came with it with all the exercises, and I'm like, little 10-year-old brain's going, well, hey, wait a minute. I could get my legs stronger. If I get my legs stronger, I'm going to be faster on the bike and I'm going to win more. So I put together a whole program of, it was fun. I wish I had a picture of it. I wish I still had a picture of it or something, because I had little bicycle pedals written next to all the stuff that was going to help me get better. But I wrote down a whole program and, bicycle pedal next to everything that was going to make me better at bike racing.
Yeah.
I was sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, at 10 years old, I probably wrote a better program than what most of the fitness influencers today write.
No, you did.
I was going to say, that was an impressive amount of insight at 10 years old.
Yeah. So I did that. So I started working on that thing. So that was my intro to weight training, where I was just, I've always trained with a purpose and intent. I've never just been, dicking around in the gym, doing whatever. It's always been with some kind of a focus of, okay, I want to do this to get better at bike racing. I want to do this to get better at, wrestling. I want to do, so I already had a bit of a head start. I was I'd also had, my freshman and sophomore years, I had 2 sternoclavicular separations and just ripped it clean out right here, and just popped it clean out. Some guy was trying to do he had a double overhook on me, trying to throw me, and I was blocking his hip. And like the third time he threw his hips in, it just popped out. Down I went. So that ended my season, my freshman year, and then it popped out again my sophomore year, but it went back in well enough that I was able to come back in and finish the year and still do halfway okay.
So how do you recover from that? You just leg up?
They just stuck me in a harness. So I was walking around like I was Billy Badass for 6 weeks. Well, that, funny story. I don't know if you've ever met Dr. Todd McDougall, chiropractor. Has he been on the show? I don't know if he's been.
No, but we got him on the invite list.
Okay. Yeah, so Doc, he was out working on me one time. And so I had a bump from that injury for about 30 years where it stuck out. Doc's working on me. He's like, oh, you got a rib head out. And the whole room just went like, whoa. The whole room went white. I lost sensation and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, holy shit, Doc, that was out of place for 30 years and you just put it back in place.
Yeah.
The doctor said it was never, they're like, oh, it's going to be like that for the rest of your life. It's never going back. And Doc put it back. So,
was there relief afterwards?
Oh, yeah,
I mean, at that point, having it for so long, you're kind of used to it.
Yeah. So I was in a daze for a couple of days after.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, afterwards it's like, oh, okay. That moves better. And, it helped out a lot, but man, was that a shock. Big shock to the system.
Yeah.
It was almost as bad as when it got pulled out the first time. So that was the other reason why I kind of veered away from the bench in high school, because that compromised my benching to a fair bit. So I was at my best, I was always a shitty bencher for whatever reason. I mean, well,
it didn't have a pedal by it when you were younger.
Right. That's so, I mean, like at my best, when I was dabbling in powerlifting a little bit, and my best raw bench was like 4.25. And, and I was like around a 265, 275 guy at the time. So not impressive, not particularly good. And that was, other than that, and hell, most of the time, it was like if I went over 300, it would wreck my shoulders and just from crappy technique and whatnot. So, so that was another reason why I kind of avoided the bench, because I sucked at it too. And everybody, but I mean, high schools, there's like 10 guys over at the bench and nobody at the squat rack.
Well, yeah, I mean, back then the bench press was the king. Right. Actually, just until recently, the bench press is the king of all lifts, and I think the deadlift has surpassed it.
Yes, it's finally, yeah.
Yes, where it was always interesting being in the U.S. because all the other countries, the deadlift was the thing.
Yeah.
And I hate
the deadlift or the squat.
Yeah, I just despise the deadlift, right? So I just hate it just because I hate it. And so it was good for me. I had a good bench, right? This is perfect. But recently, it's flipped with that. How did at what point did the training supersede the sport?
Kind of when I got into college, because I didn't really have any college where I ended up going to DeVry.
Yeah.
For college, because I was going into IT. They, of course, don't have any kind of sports.
Yeah.
So I really had no athletic outlet there. So I'm just like, well, let me just train to get bigger and stronger. So I did kind of experiment with bodybuilding there for a bit. Realized that I don't like tilapia and asparagus that much. Oh my, yeah. I started prepping for a contest. Started prepping for a bodybuilding contest. I got about 6 weeks in, and so what really did it, I was going to start working on posing, and I had to, shave and get, shaving my leg. I'm like shaving my legs, and I'm going, because I'm Italian. I got some pretty hairy ass legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, it took me like a half an hour to get through one leg, and I didn't even get that good of a job on it. I'm going, damn it, I got to do the other one. And
at that point, you're already 2 razors in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I'm sitting there like,
leg.
At this point, you didn't think about your back at all.
Right. No, I haven't thought about my back yet. I'm just sitting there like, damn, how the hell am I going to do this? And I'm, in on the diet already, and I'm like, I'm already hating the diet. because my way of thinking, I was looking at him going, hey, you know what? I didn't eat for 3-4 months out of the year back in high school for wrestling.
Yeah.
So this will be easy. But no, eating the same damn thing for every meal, 6 meals a day, that tastes pretty horrible, bland at best. Eating the same damn thing over and over again is a whole lot worse than just outright starving. It's a lot easier to just chug a can of Exceed or something like that, and then have a little diet meal at the end of the day.
A Diet Coke just to fill your stomach up.
Yeah.
I know. I wrestled, so I know.
So it's a whole lot easier doing that than it is to do a bodybuilding prep. And I did not realize that until I started it, but then the shaving just put me off over the edge. I'm just like, fuck this. I'm out. My contest is over now. Hats off to all you people that can do it.
Was that the first competitive experience with strength athletes?
Yeah, that was my first competitive experience with strength sports. Then I got, after that, actually, so shortly after that, the very first seminar that you did, I had gotten my CSCS way back, basically just because I got annoyed with people that they were, because when you on the online forums and stuff like that back then, people were always really quick to, well, what kind of certification do you have to be?
Yeah, let's date this a little bit. So like 2008 or earlier?
No,
earlier. Yeah,
earlier. This was, let's see, probably 90s.
Yeah, okay.
It was because you were still at Westside back on the at the Demarest Road location.
Yeah, so it's probably 90, because I started the company in 98. So, and part of that was because of this crap that you're talking about. So the late 90s.
Yeah. So it was the late 90s, because it was over. I remember it was over at a hotel on the West Side.
Yeah. Oh God, way back. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had because we had the first day we were in the hotel, and then the second day we had the live session over at Westside on probably, I think it was on a Sunday. I think it was a Saturday and a Sunday when we went and trained. Trained at Westside. Was
that the one I filmed?
You might have.
Was Mike Ruggiero in there?
I think it was.
Yeah. Because I would do the first part basically in a chart room. Yeah. Right. Because I used to do the whole thing at Westside, but then there's the problem. That logistically there's a problem. People are still wanting to train and stuff like that. Yeah. So there was that issue, and then there was a cost problem. Like where am I going to have this? I'm like, well, if they stay in the hotel and the chart room, basically just the conference room, it's like always open. Yeah. It's like free. Yeah. Especially if they're staying there. Right. And there's not a lot. It's like 8 people or something like that. Yeah. And so it's that. Oh God, that brings back so many memories, because I remember being able to figure out how to do the slideshow and then adding little stupid animations if I was to go. I mean, back then it was the shit. Like, this can bounce. Yeah. And I had the projectors back then. They're not like they were now. I mean, this is something I had to lease. It was expensive, and in town, no big deal. But when I would fly, I was so paranoid, because the bulbs of those things, if they got broken, it was like $800-900, right? I would sit with that fucker on my lap and would not let the stewardess let me put that under. Like, no, you're not putting it anywhere. You're
not touching this.
This
is worth more than the ticket.
I will die with this in my
yes. Yeah. And then if they had to put it under, this is so stupid. If they had to put it under, I was so paranoid and so pissed that as soon as we landed and I got it, I would go to the terminal and then talk to the rep, go into the back room, plug it in, and make sure it still worked.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because if the bulb was out,
at least blaming them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know what I was going to do, because I didn't have a spare bulb. This is why it's so stupid. Yeah. I was just so paranoid about that. But anyhow, back to what you were saying.
Yeah. So that's the and so the working session of that. That was wild. So we were doing box squats. I hadn't squatted in forever at that point. I remember saying something about the bad knees, and you looked like you were going to puke. You looked like you were.
Yeah, like whatever.
Yeah, and. But there were some people in there training when we got there, and I remember seeing some guy that was probably 100 pounds south of me doing speed work on the bench with what I could reasonably max at the time. And I'm going, it'd be kind of cool to actually, be stronger than looking stronger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of, so then I started dabbling in powerlifting after that for a while. And did that for probably 5, 6, did a couple of local shows, nothing great. Had a decent, probably my one claim to fame, and that if it's a claim to fame, I did a 850 squat with just belt and knee sleeves. So
I mean, even if you were to say with the gear that was back then, that's still good.
Yeah.
Really good. That's really good.
So yeah, Louis after our training session, he had said, "Hey, why don't you come out and train with us?" But I asked when, and he's like, "Oh, well, where are you, about 9 o'clock on these days?" And I'm going, "Well, I'm already at work for 2 hours by then." It's like, and I couldn't exactly leave a good paying IT job to go chase a powerlifting dream.
He didn't try to talk you out of quitting your job and just working as a bouncer.
He just, come out and join us so we can figure out a way to make it work.
You mean the dream of squatting a grand wasn't enough?
Right. Yeah. I'm sure, well, you know what? It might have worked out. I might have gotten my ex-wife to leave me sooner.
Oh,
As it was, she didn't leave me for another, 5, 6 years after that.
Yeah.
So
then how did this migrate into the strongman?
pretty much, I got to a point where I knew I wasn't going to be particularly competitive at powerlifting with the shitty bench. And I was just kind of looking, really, I was actually just looking.
The bench is not that. What was the deadlift?
My deadlift is not great either. I've got a long torso and T-Rex arms, so I can my best pull off the floor 700, which surprises everybody who watches me deadlift.
Yeah.
Jill Mills looked at me. She asked me that, and I told her 700, and she's like, "Really? Wow."
Yeah.
Because the way you're built, I wouldn't have expected to be that high of a number.
Yeah. I mean, but back then the bench, I wouldn't say it was low. It would have kept you in a decent position for a total, especially with that squat.
Yeah.
But if the deadlift is trailing with that a little bit, then I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, my deadlift was, in the powerlifting meets, I never pulled over like 650.
Okay.
I pulled, so pulling about 650, I could hit an 850. But I hit the 850 once. So,
Okay.
Realistically, it was more like a 780, 800 on, that was just a unicorn day. And then the bench was going to come in probably somewhere south of 400.
Yeah. So you got out before the shirts got real gangster.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the context I'm trying to put into that, right? Because maybe we're getting 30 pounds. 40 maybe, right? I mean, shortly thereafter,
right?
It would have helped you, right?
Yeah, the shirts after that made me respectable.
Yeah.
Once they got good, but I was still in the crappy shirt phase.
Staying hydrated is huge for training and performance. And this is why today's episode is brought to you by Element. Element gives you exactly what your body needs: 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium, 0 sugar, and no junk. Personally, I like to mix half a pack with my morning oatmeal. I'll use any of the chocolate flavors. I drink it with all my training sessions, watermelon being my favorite. Some other reasons why I use it is stable energy with no crash. It fights off fatigue and cramps, improves mental focus and clarity, helps regulate stress, and supports deeper sleep. And there's no sugar and garbage. Here's the best part. You can try it totally risk-free. Right now, Element is offering a free 8-count sample pack of its most popular flavors. With each purchase, you get 2 of each of these 4 fan favorites, perfect for finding your own favorite or sharing with a friend. Don't like it? Give it to a salty friend, and Element will give you your money back. Head over to www.drinklmnt.com/table talk.
And so I was just kind of looking for something to, I don't even know if I was really looking for something. I was just actually looking for neutral grip implements to press with because my shoulders were trashed. So I went around the Arnold, walked around the Arnold, and I was looking for all the neutral grip stuff. Happened to see one of the Slater logs at one of the booths, and I'm like, oh, hell, he's only over in Lancaster. It's 30 minutes away. So I don't need to pay shipping. I could just go pick it up. Like, and that looks a hell of a lot cooler than the.
There really weren't any real neutral grip bars either.
No,
they were.
No. The Swiss bars were still really new and really expensive.
Well, they were at that point. They were basically just log press. They were log press bars.
Yeah.
They were built to the specs of a log.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the play was a lot of play.
Yeah. So I was just like, well, hell, that looks a lot cooler. It's about the same.
Yeah.
It's about the same price since I can go drive and pick it up and don't have to pay shipping.
Yeah.
And
it's a log.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looks cool as shit. So I went and paid my down payment to Steve, and Steve was like, well, hey, we train strongman events every Saturday out of my barn. Why don't you come down and join us? And I'm like, oh, well, okay, And I went out, and I was, by that point, so I was at low level powerlifting, and I was at, bodybuilding was my experience with strength sports. So of course I go into my first day training strongman expecting it to be the same kind of, dick swinging match that a lot of that, so I'm.
No, I get like you have to earn your way into the crew or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like I trained at the old World's Gym over on East Livingston.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So gosh, what was the guy's name that ran it?
Was it Benford?
No,
he took it over after a while.
Geez.
Lorimer and Benford were associated, but I know you're talking about
the guy that ran that one. He was about 6'6", big bearded dude. I can't remember.
Yeah, right down the street from that was a gym. You remember the gym called Lord's Gym?
Yes. Yeah.
I worked there for like 6 months as a personal trainer, and it was an interesting experience.
Steve Grill was the guy that owned that.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew him from.
No, but I know the name because it's kind of all in the.
Yeah, he was. As I've heard it, he was a power lifter of note prior to running the gym and whatnot.
Yeah, there was a lot of dick swinging going on.
Oh my God, yes. Oh yeah, I mean, I went in. Nobody spoke to me. Like none of the big guys spoke to me for like 3 months.
But even the bodybuilding was like that though, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because they'd have the little click, right, and you had to figure out how to earn your way, into that thing. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that was how I knew I arrived there.
Yeah,
it was all of a sudden, I walked in one day and one of the big guys was like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh shit, you spoke to me."
Yeah.
So I'm expecting the same kind of thing. That was what I used to do when I went to a new gym. Is I'd squat the first day I went there. After that, it's like, okay,
establish that dominance and
more or less,
There's some respect.
Making order,
yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm squatting a respectable weight. I'm not, and that would get people to be like, oh, okay, hey. Funny story with that. So I was at the other World's Gym on the west side years later, because that was the closest one where I was working. So I would go in like 6 a.m. and train there. And so I'm squatting, and one of the regulars there comes up to me and he's like, "Man, that's a lot of weight." So I went right into my falsetto voice just to mess with him, and I go, "You ain't seen nothing yet, Turner." And he's like, "Oh my God." And as soon as he freaked out, I let him off the hook. I could not laugh at him. That was like the best reaction out of that I've ever gotten. Of course, back in those days, it's like the idea that a guy my size might be gay was terrifying.
And they didn't know about the bear community at that point, especially in those gyms.
Oh God, yeah. So, I did that to him, and he was just like. Yeah, but
especially now that you can't even shave.
I couldn't even shave at that point. Oh my God! So that was poor guy. But,
all right, so you go out to Slater's.
Yeah, so I got to Slater's, and the environment was so weird. I'm trying to learn how to log press, and so I grabbed the log, and as I'm doing, like 5 guys are all going, "Oh, here, everybody's trying to help me all at once," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, hold on, what did you say?" Okay, let me try that. Okay, you said, it was such a bizarre, I'd never seen anything like it. Just a, crazy supportive environment. And I was like, maybe this is just weird for these guys. Maybe this is just like this group. But as I got around the sport in general, went to a couple of contests, I'm like, no, this is actually kind of the norm. I'm like, damn, this is cool.
Why do you think that? Why is probably not that? How do you think that came to be?
I think I think that everything in strongman is so difficult as it is, that it just, the mindset is that it's you against the events more so than you against the other people. So, you want to win, but you want to win because you were stronger, because you were better, because you prepared better, as opposed to winning because they made a mistake. So it allows you to be supportive of other people because, you're just going from that, you're just going, it's you in the event.
So in a way, because the skill acquisition is larger?
I think so, yeah.
Right.
I think there's another part to this, and you can probably collaborate on this. So I do get to travel around the world a lot, especially in the on-season, off-season. We'll visit 10, 15 different gyms throughout the year, if sometimes above that.
Yeah.
Almost always, when I walk into the gym, everyone stares at me. I'm a big guy. It's hard not to notice me, so I get it. But everyone's watching me, and I can feel the stares. And just waiting to see what pin do I put the weights on the tricep curl or the bicep curl. Like if I'm deadlifting, how much weight do I do? And it's my off day. I'm doing like 600 pounds, which to me is an off day. To them, it's crazy. Wow. Right. But nobody comes up. Nobody says anything. The moment I'm over in the strongman area, it's like, oh, you do strongman? Let me show you this thing. And he comes out and brings out the lug and he brings out the stones. He's like, I got this really cool grip handle thing. Let me show you. I just got it. And he starts pulling out that toy. And then I'm noticing this. Every time I'm going to a friend strongman gym or a strongman specifically gym, these strongman guys there will be over, oh, you do strongman? Let me show you this thing I have here. And I went over to his gym. He's like, look at my lug. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this weird axle wagon wheel deadlift. And we're trying all these things. So it's like that childish, fascination of let me show you my toys, and we can play around together with it, and that there is no barrier of oh, how much do you deadlift? It's like, no, look at my cool stone. So a lot of that really helps connect.
I agree. That's a very good point. I mean, and I always joke around that we're in strongman, we're like the island of misfit toys. We're so used to being kind of on the outside looking in of any group, any group of regular people that we're around, that when we find our people, we're just like, hey. So we're like a bunch of big dogs that all, oh, look, there's another big dog to play with. Look, I bet,
Did you touch the stone before?
Powerlifting would be like that too, but it's not the same type of culture that you're talking about.
No, it's definitely, I've noted the guys that are at the top of the chain in powerlifting are generally super, like Eddie Cohn. I mean,
well, they've been humbled.
Yeah. I mean, Ed's one of the coolest guys. He's so generous with his time. He's a cool dude. Love him.
For how cool he is, he catches you off guard every time. With the jokes and that.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah. Oh shit, funny story with him. So we were at a seminar with he was speaking, and Dr. McGill was speaking, and I think trying to think who else was there, but anyway, so he's sitting there, and they had the Notre Dame thing up behind me, and Ed's sitting there, and he's looking at me. He goes, That's it. Vachio looks like the Notre Dame mascot on steroids. So I actually ended up dressed up as a leprechaun that Halloween, the Halloween after that.
So how soon after you got in there did you start competing?
3 months, which honestly was probably too fast, but it was just, I had gotten a bug for it. It was about 3-4 months. And I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I can do this. I want to jump in. And so I jumped into that first event, and did. I got dead last in three out of the 5 events, and smashed my hand on an odd object load. Had this bizarre stone that was almost as long as I am and wide. And I'm like, can't figure out how to get it. And I got it up on the platform, and unfortunately didn't have my hand out of the way. So I'm like, oh, that's going to leave a mark.
Yeah. Well, how was the conditioning? Because as a 275 powerlifter for 5 or 6 years, I'm sure your conditioning wasn't top of the line.
No, my conditioning was not great strongman wise. Thankfully, that first contest wasn't really conditioning heavy.
Yeah.
It was funny. The one,
Well, I mean, tying your shoes can be an issue for a 275 powerlifter at that time.
well, yeah, and by the time I got to strongman, by that point I was around 300.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, so that was funny. The one at that first contest. So
Well, let's go back because let's go back to the first session.
Yeah.
So what was your first session like? Because you're coming in close to 300 pounds with that powerlifting. So your GPP sucks.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh God.
What's GPP?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah,
And now
right.
you're going through all these different events, you know,
Oh,
waking up the next day had to be a treat.
I got a great story about that. So, but I was trying to learn to log, and I got like a 185 log press that first day, and a teenager got a 200 log, and so that was my goal. My short-term goal is like, I'm going to come back until I can outpress that little shit.
This teenager.
Yeah, because I can't let this little snot-nosed kid outpress me. So
You're going in with an 850 squat, man.
right. Well, so getting to that. So the next event we did was a yoke, and I'm just waiting for because I'm. And I was cocky about it. I'm sitting there going, I got an 850 squat, man. This will be easy. And I get under a 500 pound. I get under 500 pound yoke, and we only had to carry it 50 feet. It took me probably a minute and a half to carry it 50 feet. I looked like I was having an epileptic fit the whole damn time. And I was just like, I'm like, it's only 500 pounds. How's 500 pounds feels, and I didn't even have to pick it up from a squat depth, I was like, pick it up like, you only got to pick it up like 3-4 inches, right? So I'm picking it up, dropping it every 3 steps and, see Jesus at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? And then we did farmer's carries. And, of course, I had a decent powerlifting deadlift at that point. So I had the typical powerlifting grip. I could hold on to anything for about 3 seconds. And so I pick up the farmer's handle, rip them off the ground, take a step. Down. And Slater's looking at it. He looks around at everybody. He goes, because I have never seen anybody pick them up that fast and then drop them that quick. He goes, you picked those up. I thought you were going to run a mile with them. And then bam, down they went. Then we did a truck pull after that. And then, so the next morning I wake up, oh my God. And I reach over, I grab my wife's shoulder. I'm like, honey. And she's like, what? I'm like, I gotta pee. And she's like, so get up and pee. I'm like, I can't. I need you to help me get out of bed. Because I'd been trying for like 10 minutes. About 10 minutes, God, oh, this hurts. I'm like, honey, help me out of bed so I can pee. And she's like, if I'm going to have to help you out of bed every weekend, you're not doing this shit anymore. So it'll get better, I promise. And it did. Oh my God. So, I'm surprised my marriage lasts past that. And then, so we did some stones. And then, like a day later, my wife, I hear a blood-curdling scream, what the fuck is this stuff on the doorknob? That's tacky. Yeah. Why is it on the door? I guess I had some on my hand and I didn't get it all off and it got on the doorknob. She's like, I'm surprised my marriage lasted past that first training day of strongman.
Well, it already made it through the powerlifting phase.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so it was hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
The tacky was keeping it together.
Right.
Yeah. So after that first show, were you hooked at that point?
Oh, yeah, I was hooked. I loved it. I had a great time doing it, even though, my performance kind of sucked. I learned a ton as you're going to when you get out and compete. My aversion to straps died that day. Because we had a 500-pound deadlift for reps, which, given what I think the guy that won got like 8 or 9, strength-wise, I could have cleaned his clock like that. But at the time, of course, coming from powerlifting background, I'm like, I go up, and Slater was my judge at the contest, and he's like, I walk up to the party, he goes, no straps? I said, nah, straps are for pussies.
Okay.
And I proceed to grind out 4 reps and die. Yeah, end up getting dead last in the deadlift. And I'm like, watch these other guys strap in. Guys, can't deadlift anywhere near what I can. And just, knock out more reps than I did. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna strap in next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, my strap bias died that day. And I actually did okay in the truck pull. We had a truck pull. I probably would have won that event, but I face planted and I still got second. And then the funny one for me was the Conan's wheel. So in god-awful Conan's wheel event. I pick it up. I'd never done one before, never seen one before. It's like, what the hell? Picked it up, and I made it like 3 feet, 4 inches.
Very specific distance.
Yeah. Well, so I'm walking away dejected.
Yardstick.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm walking away dejected. I'm like, oh man. I said I got dead last in that event too. And then I hear the announcer go, 3 feet, 3 inches. That's good for second place. I'm going, hey, I didn't get last. Mm-hmm. Somebody sucked worse than I did on that one.
Wow.
Yeah. And then everybody else was, 50 feet, you guys suck.
So how did you change your training at that point?
A lot more conditioning. Definitely added a ton more conditioning work. And
defined how? How would you define that?
Did a lot more than I shifted to where I did a lot more moving events and a lot lighter, a lot of sandbag carries.
So the strength work really didn't change. It was just adding in that other stuff.
Pretty much, yeah. So basically adding in that kind of heavy GPP stuff to get my conditioning halfway decent, because that was, and working on my grip, because my grip was definitely a major weak point. I mean, it's better now than it was, but I haven't been focusing on it as much lately, so I need to get that built back up. And it's a different sort of grip, where you need the supporting grip for the strongman, so you've got to be able to hold on forever. And so I actually had a decent crushing grip. Like I could, first time I tried the number 2 grippers from Iron Mind, I closed them.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Oh wow, most people can't walk up and just close these things." I'm like,
yes, I can.
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, I just don't ask me to do it for more than a couple of seconds.
Well, the grip it's a weird one, because I'll have you both kind of comment on this one, because you only need to have it to a certain point,
yes,
right? And so you can pull away and not do it for a long period of time. You can't do that with absolute strength,
right?
You can kind of do it with conditioning, but it's more just lowering the conditioning to maintain a certain level. But the grip, you can just pull out and then bring back in. So you can physically wave that in and out more frequently, right?
Yeah, you can train out a lot more often too.
Yes. So how long do you need, have you found on average, does somebody need to have that in there before the competition? Because I'm sure it's like 2 weeks isn't going to do it, right? There's going to be...
I've had some interesting results where I blasted grip for 6 weeks, but 2 or 3 times a week. And that worked out pretty well for me, like almost a 50, 60 pound increase.
Mm-hmm.
World record, 201 pounds.
Yeah, me, I needed a lot of, I probably needed about 8. I need about 8 weeks, and it's just a lot of grip endurance stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll do like really light farmer's hold or farmer's carries. For some reason or other, farmer's carries work better for me than farmer's holds, and I have no logical explanation for why that is.
The weight moving around, probably
Maybe,
wobbling, forcing more support muscles.
I
to
think maybe
actually
that's the
activate.
case. Yeah, but because I can work farmer's holds, and it doesn't do nearly as much for me as what a farmer's walk will. But I'll do 200-foot walks with light weight, and just keep doing that over and over and over again. I'll do it. I'll do kind of like Pavel's old greasing the groove mentality. His I lost my train of thought for the word of that, but his protocol for the greasing the groove. Sometimes I'll do that where I'll set up a set of farmer's handles and I'll just leave them somewhere where I know I'm going to go past them. And
on the way to the flip flops on the way out, yeah,
basically more or less, yeah. And I'll grab them, do a quick 200 feet run with it, come back, set them down,
It sounds like one aspect that isn't necessarily fun to do.
No,
it's like ab work for powerlifting.
Yeah.
Like it kind of has to be in there for a certain period.
Yeah,
and
that's another one with strongman. You need ab work. A lot of the ab work from powerlifting carries over a ton to strongman. I see a lot of people where, like on their press, they collapse forward. It's like, well, that's abs, buddy. I said, that's abs and upper back. If you could brace properly and had strong enough abs, you wouldn't be crashing forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, so abs are heavily neglected in strongman by a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that's another one. But it's not fun. It's not flashy. And that's really, the thing about strongman is like, if you want to be halfway decent at it, you've got to work on the stuff you suck at.
Well, that would be any sport.
That's
right?
true.
There's certain skills that are associated with that sport.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is you can get the specialists that just do.
Yes.
Just they practice the crap out of the technique of all the implements, but don't get strong.
No.
Like, that's good. You'll look good until you put weight on it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that balance, right? That you got to be able to figure out between the absolutes, because you still have to have the technique.
Yeah.
Which is at a different level than, I'd say every strength sport. The only reason I paused is I had to think a little bit more about CrossFit.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of technical aspects.
Yeah. They never, I can't say never, but they tend not to get super heavy.
Yeah.
They're starting.
No, but technique wise, because they got to worry about transitions. You guys got to worry about transitions. They got to worry about, all those other things. So that would be, up there over like powerlifting where there's definitely technical aspects, but this is another level.
Yeah. Cause that's another huge one where people don't train their transitions.
Definitely. Yeah.
So they train, you've got a medley of, say, okay, you got to carry a yoke and then run over and pick up some farmer's handles and then run and pick up a keg. They practice each one individually. It's like, okay, well, I can do all of these just fine, but they don't practice the transitions in between them. And so they end up taking an extra 10 seconds in between the yoke and the farmers, when if they'd practice the transitions, they could cut that down to maybe 3 or 5. And so that's always one.
That's huge. Because there's 4 different things, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's 10 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes
It can be even more than that.
Yeah.
If you take stones, for example, classic example, you can have 2 guys that are identically good, or even one guy that is absolutely amazing at stones. And then you're watching him do it. He'll do the first one. You're like, wow, he's going to fly through this whole thing. He walks up to the second one and he's fixing his tack and he's like trying to find the sweet spot. He lifts it. You're like, your lift is fast, but man, you like 10 seconds between every stone lift. What are you doing? You could just be throwing these up, especially with that strength level. And then the guy that's struggling on the stones, he breezes through it because the moment he's done with one, he's already hopping over the second one and picking it up while the first one's still settling. So that makes a huge difference in time.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's massive. I've beaten a lot of people at medley events and various other events just because I made sure to train the transitions, and you could tell they didn't.
Or especially if it's like a sandbag medley or something, just the ability to run back at full sprint rather than walk back out of breath.
Oh yeah,
that is massive.
Yeah, and the pick on the sandbag, people don't train the pick.
Yep.
They train. It's like, okay, I've got to. Now I can carry it forever, but okay, it takes you. It takes you 10 seconds to 15 seconds to get the thing up into carry position.
Yep.
If you train, get good at the pick. Okay, boom, 3 seconds, I'm off.
Yeah.
Well, I can see that because it's, it's when I'll watch these things.
Yeah.
I look at things like that. I like to break things down, you know, so I look at that as most people probably aren't, right? So it's like, oh, you throw this bag over the bar, or you throw this keg over the bar. And then if they go out to do it, they're just going to do multiple reps of just doing that, but not paying attention, you know, to that. Like, how did they move from this? How did they get this one to this one to this one and move there? And what I didn't put together until you just said it is how much time that actually takes. That might be equal to as much time as the actual event
absolutely.
Definitely,
or more, which that's crazy not to look into that.
Yeah. But people,
because it's not loaded.
Yeah, but they,
it's not. Yeah,
but they ignore it all the time.
Yeah, and the timer's not on the pause. The biggest, even the bigger, most obvious example of this, other than the stones and everything, is the sandbag throws. Especially you take the handful of guys that are actually the best at it. It's not that the throws are so much better. I've seen guys throw higher and better.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
The moment they throw one, they don't look up whether they hit the target or missed it. They threw the first one, they're already picking up the second and throwing to the point where Thor or someone, they had 2 or 3 bags in the air at the same time or in movement. Yeah. Which is insane.
Well, you know they have to train that because you're natural. Yeah. You're going to watch the damn thing. So you have to train yourself to do what's not natural.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And you have to be so consistent and precise, even in your transitions, that you know that the bag is going to make it. I don't need to look at it. I'm already reaching for the second one, and I'm not going to swing it. I'm just going to throw it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like if it doesn't make it, you're surprised. So you're just head down throwing, and then if the judge goes, oh wait, then you're whoops, missed one. You know.
Well, if you're skilled, you're already going to be at the other one.
Yeah.
And then be like, oh shit, you got to go back, right?
Yeah.
To be able to make that up.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
what are some other examples of that outside of just the sandbags?
Oh shoot, let's see.
Sandbag stones, the sandbag medley or any kind of medley running back and forth.
Running back and forth. Yeah, you see.
Or like the deadlifts, like deadlift ladders, which are super popular now.
Oh yeah, and the so like the straps.
Yeah.
They don't train.
Hooking, unhooking, or
they don't train using the straps, getting in and out quickly.
Oh yeah.
So you see these guys go up. They go up to the first one. They get their, they use the. I hate the figure eights. So I hate them on many levels, and so they get in with their wiggle in with their figure eights, lift, wiggle out, go up to the next one, wiggle in figure eight, and it's like, all right, you just took 5 seconds. Wiggling into your damn figure eights. And I actually learned that. I was using regular straps, and a friend of mine beat me on a deadlift medley by like 2 seconds. He had the Versa grips. He beat me by 2 seconds, and I knew I was a better deadlifter than he was. And I'm like, all right, I'm adopting that from now on.
Yeah.
On that, you almost either want to use the shorter.
Yeah, you want the shorter. Yeah, you want the shorter straps. Or I love the Versa grips because you just in and out, and half a second you're strapped in, and boom, you go.
The only way I found it work for me with the figure eights.
Yeah.
This is a very particular technique that I try to teach people when they're struggling with the figure eights. Is I will use the oversized ones, the biggest size I can get, so that the moment I swing them through, I put them through. But rather than having them extend the full distance, I'll have them pulling off to the side.
Yeah.
That way, it doesn't matter how long they are, but I put them through, tied in my hand, and that's it. It's as fast as wrapping a short strap around. That's, again, a small little technique that makes such a difference in speed. But then, okay, so the strap is one thing, but then you'll see people drop the bar and it will be bouncing, so they're waiting to step over it, or they're walking around because the bar is bouncing. Just kite it down, set it down, step over it. That's it. And it'll take you faster to set it down than chop it.
And the lack of urgency in between implements sometimes. It's like you're trying to win the event, and you're just saunter up to this one. Okay. Next, it's like, unless you know you're the only guy in the group who's strong enough to do all of them, it's like if you know or are reasonably sure that nobody else in your group is going to get the last one you can, okay, then you can lollygag maybe in between because you know you'll get to the last one. Okay. But I see, I see it all the time. You realize you're in a timed event, right? That the faster you get from this one to that one means you're going to place higher. and you're just
And you don't need to do it as fast.
And you're not even you're not even doing a jog in between. You're just kind of like, oh, yeah, I'll mosey to this one, I'll mosey to that one. I'm like, what are you doing?
So how do you balance all this out with the actual strength training that you have to do? Because it can be sitting here like, this is freaking overwhelming. Like, this is a lot.
I'll usually do my conditioning kind of at the end. So I'll get my strength training in while I'm fresh, get those movements in. And as I've gotten older, I've noticed that I've got to do, like, I can't do as much, I've got to do, so like I'll typically do like an upper body day, a lower body day, and then a day that's more strongman event centered. Mm-hmm.
But you've already accumulated those skills.
Yeah, it's already accumulated those skills
yes.
over the years. So it's it's not like I've got to work on them that much.
No, but I'm speaking about somebody that has to work on them.
Somebody's got to work. I mean, I'm definitely I would say like a newer person. I would still go with a basic training template of like a 3-day a week, 3 maybe 4, just because recovery. Mm-hmm. That is. Speaking of the earlier question, that is probably the single biggest thing that I wish I had done more when I was younger, is focus on recovery in between. Because when you're young, you're young and you're dumb, and you can I can train 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. I can do 2-a-day sessions and stuff like that, and that's all fine and well. But you run yourself into the ground. Yeah, I would have much preferred if I had paid more attention to recovery when I was younger.
Now, by that, do you mean that the active and passive recovery you can do between sessions, mm-hmm. or just controlling the workload that you're doing in the sessions?
Both. Right?
Yeah.
I wish I had been smarter about controlling the workload and not trying to kill myself in the gym as much.
Yeah.
Do the minimum effective dose. Do what I need to do to create the stimulus to grow, and then stop. Yeah. And then focus on recovery until the next session.
Yes, which you may not have to do that if you do the first.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But focus, do some good active recovery even then. And I've gotten a lot better at that as I've gotten older, where it's like I can tell, okay, I've gotten enough quality work in today. I can stop this main lift and move on to my accessory work. Mm-hmm. And then, so for newer people, I would say, well, one, still work on your active recovery and stuff like that, but do the, have a day dedicated to building skill. Have a couple 3 days to building strength, and then finish your strength training days. And of course, you'll get it with the skill days too, of this is your conditioning.
Now, if they're just starting as 1 day for the skill, going to be enough?
Over time, eventually, yeah, I think so. But I mean, it might not hurt to have 2 days, but most people don't have easy access to the implements either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know when I was starting in strongman, I had my log at home. And I had, Slaters, and that was it. The rest of it was gym lifts. Mm-hmm. Gym lifts. I got a sandbag. I went down to the military surplus store. Got a Siemens bag, filled it up, taped it off, kept that in the back of my car.
So if they were younger and they had, say, the 2 days, would it make more sense for one of those days to be light to moderate, just focus on technique than the other day, being a little bit heavier? Because obviously the heavier the weight gets, the more inclined you're going to break technique, which, as the power lifters, that's what I worry about a lot if they're going heavy all the time, because you're just reinforcing bad patterns. Mm-hmm. Where if they're going heavy all the time on the events, you're just becoming stronger at shittier technique, which is still okay.
Yeah. And I sucked at the yoke until I stopped training it heavy. So I would train it heavy, and that's everybody else in the group is always, let's bump up the weight, and everybody wanted to go,
because that's exciting, of course. But
so everybody, wants to go, let's do 700, let's do 800, let's go 900, boom, 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 and I'm doing, 45-second runs with, 600, 700 pounds. And what got me good at the yoke was I stopped doing that. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, I want to be fast within 50 feet. I want to go 50 feet in less than 10 seconds. So I picked a weight. Okay, I can get this in less than 10 seconds. And I just kept doing runs at that until I got consistent that I add weight. Like, okay, build this until I can get that under 10 seconds.
Yeah, well, I would think that you still have to figure out what your stride's going to be.
Yeah.
Right. And if it's heavy all the time, your stride's going to default to whatever you can do to be able to move it.
Exactly.
Your technique changes depending on the weight and what kind of yoke it is.
Yeah.
A bit. Even just, the stride length, the way you hold it, the way you move with it, the way you breathe with it.
I was going to say the way you breathe has got to be a big part of it, especially if it's heavy.
Oh, yeah.
You're
It's
not
like
breathing.
a breath every step almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That or you're passing out with it pretty
Well,
quick.
yeah. I know. I sound like a choo-choo train because I'm. Yeah. Every step.
So as you're going through this, when you're younger, you do have that ability to recover faster because you're younger.
Yep.
But then you cross that threshold where whatever age it is, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Where you wake up one day and it's like, oh shit, this doesn't work like it used to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird because right before that, you'll kind of hit this lack of progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then your default is I'm not training hard enough because that's what got you there. That's what brought you to the dance.
Yes.
And then you just train harder because that's what got you there, and it just expedites how fast you're going to
dig the hole deeper.
When we all
the hole
start,
deeper,
right?
Deeper. Yep.
Yeah.
We all start. The only misinformation we have is that you're not training unless you're sore.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the worst.
Yeah. And the definition of training hard changes.
Yeah.
It becomes training more economical, training economy, training density.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you've had to change as you've gotten older if that point hits?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I've never been good at handling volume. The years that I was doing bodybuilding, I felt like hammered shit all the time because I'm doing the high volume bodybuilding stuff and everything hurt. My shoulders hurt, my elbows hurt, knees hurt, everything. I was walking around like an old man when I was 23.
So this fascinates me, right? Because I think a lot of the abilities that we develop younger, kind of predetermine where we're going to go. And as a wrestler, it's explosive.
Yeah.
Everything's fast, explosive, kind of fast twitch type of thing.
Yeah.
Then you get into that higher volume outside of like the jogging and stairs and shit that you did for wrestling. Yeah. That's not really ingrained because your brain is boom. Move fast,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Dave Tate here from Elite FTS to talk to you about bands. We've been a supplier of bands for almost 2 decades now. So I've known my way around the band landscape. When I'm talking about bands, I'm talking about floss bands, long bands, short bands, bands you can use for resistance training, mobility training, body weight training, and flossing. One of our most popular bands, or actually our most popular bands, are the long bands. The long bands are typically used the most with squats, bench presses. Our floss bands are bands that you wrap around the joint to be able to help with mobility, circulation. And the short bands are designed for shorter range movements, bench press, deadlifts, and a lot of times people will use them with resistance machines to help accommodate the strength resistance curve. Head over to elitefts.com and look for bands in the toolbar or blowout menu. So
I felt horrible. That's one of the first things I noticed when I shifted more to a powerlifting focus. I'm like, oh wow, I don't feel dead anymore. This is cool. And then I got into strongman and I felt even better. I was sitting there, I've said many times, I'm like, damn, I wish I'd discovered strongman when I still had cartilage in my knees. That would have been cool,
Back like in my early 20s or teens.
Right, yeah, because I didn't get into strongman until I was 38. So, I mean, that's, it's like my knees are, I already didn't have much cartilage and now I have even less. And it's just like, man, this would have been great if I'd, had cartilage. No,
I know that life.
Yeah.
It's like,
but I've had to, I've definitely had to, so I never did well with volume. And now I have to be more careful with the volume. It's like if I need to add more volume, I'll like add another set of 5 or something like that rather than go up to the high rep sets for the most part. I can still do some high rep stuff for like, I'll do it like for my cardio conditioning. Like we've got, or my conditioning work. So like here just last week, I've got nationals coming up in June. And I know the deadlift is going to require quite a few reps. We got a frame deadlift. And our weight for the Masters 50 plus guys is like 550, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's going to be a fair bit of reps. So I'm training like at 20 reps, with like my 400-pound frame and just doing 20 reps. I'll do as my finisher, I'll hit like a 20 rep set just to get kind of that conditioning in, to get used to pulling a shit ton of reps, because I know I'm probably going to need to pull a shit ton of reps.
Have you found that as you've gotten older, just say now, that you have to put in more steady state cardio?
A little bit. Not. I have to stretch more. I definitely have to stretch more. I have to do more foam rolling, like just on my off days and stuff like that. I know if I neglect that, I pay.
How do you pay?
It just, things hurt. Things don't work.
They don't fire right.
Yeah, they don't fire right. I've got to do a lot of work on my adductors, because my adductors for some reason get super tight super fast, and if I don't stretch those and I don't work on those, my hips start getting real tight, my lower back starts to hurt, everything just gets thrown off.
Now, have you found with recovery days, or what Louis would call mini workouts, extra workouts, whatever you want to, however somebody wants to define those, that you have to change the stimulus pretty frequently because you'll adapt to it?
Not so much on the recovery ones. The recovery ones, I can kind of do most of the same. I can keep my training. I have to rotate a lot. I still adapt fairly quickly to the main training. I still have to change that. Got to switch my accessories around a fair bit. But yeah, like the recovery work, I can pretty much do the same recovery work. And I think just mostly because my recovery work it's mostly the same body parts that are being dicks.
And most of it's kind of active too, right?
Yeah,
so it's moving.
It's mostly active stuff. I mean, I'm doing various, like some of my, I've got a black belt in Kung Fu. So I used to do a lot of leg stretches, to be able to kick higher. So now I'm having to do the same kind of things, except for, I can't put my leg up on the counter anymore. Now I have to put it on the couch, to be able to stretch it, because that'd be a bad life choice if I tried to put it on the counter.
Well, the reason I ask is towards the end of my competitive career, I used a lot of passive recovery modalities because I was a trainer and I had access to this shit in the gym. So steam, sauna, massage therapy. So with the steam and the sauna, you have contrast, you have all different protocols that you can build. And Mel Siff was kind of helping me to lay these out. But I found that, and it could have just been my own personal bias because everything operated in 3-week waves. Like after 3 weeks of using the same type of contrast, it stopped working.
Oh, okay.
Like I had to change, but these is all passive. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So like the sled dragging, the light sled dragging, upper body shit, that really didn't have to change because I saw that more as active recovery. So circulation or just light, stupid machine crap to put blood in the muscle.
As long as you're doing it.
Yeah, but those other things. And the other thing I found too, if it was like aggressive, like ART or Rolfing or shit like that, fuck you, man. No. That was like, it was always like the miracle stuff. It's like, no, you just fucked me up even worse than I was before. And I never
recovery day for my recovery day.
Well, I would go into, if it was on a Tuesday, say max effort was Monday, then Tuesday was a recovery modality day, then Wednesday was the bench. I would go on Wednesday, and this is going to sound fucked up, I wasn't as tight as I should be. Things were too loose. Right? And then it's not firing the way I want. It's like, all I can remember thinking is, you fucker, you broke down all this scar tissue. Well, maybe leave it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's what's holding me together right now. Just leave that. Shit.
So I do get deep tissue massage work done like every 3 weeks. And I definitely so my normal training week is like a Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. And whenever Inga comes over, if she comes over on a Monday.
Inga?
I
love that.
That's perfect for
That's just perfect, man. I don't great person, I'm sure. This is just perfect.
What's funnier about it? She's about a 5'2" black woman named Inga.
Yeah.
So she's not the statuesque,
Yeah, but they're the more they can be parrots, man.
Yeah, she's not the Swedish sister. Inga, blonde Inga.
She's not Helga.
Yeah.
Close.
In fact, yeah, I've been seeing her now for several years, and that was after a while. I'm like, okay, now that I know you well enough.
That's a good thing though too that you just pointed out, because if you are going to see somebody, the longer you're with them,
Yes,
is huge.
Yeah, and I've noticed there's a big difference between practitioners.
Yes.
I mean,
No two are the same.
no two are the same, and I mean, like like with Dr. Todd. Okay, seeing him and then seeing any other chiropractor is like night and day.
Yeah.
I've been to several other chiropractors that didn't do a damn thing to help me at all, where one, a doc hits me for 5 minutes and I feel like I'm, like I got a new body, and the same, with the, with Inga or, other, I've been to other massage therapists that, okay. It did something. Okay. But her, it's like, okay, I feel like I got my ass kicked. But then, hey, wow, the shoulder moves again.
The more she works on you, though, the more she's learning about you.
Yes. So yeah, and it's so she knows where I'm messed up, and she's got this weird X-ray vision shit. I mean, she she walks in and she goes, hold on. She goes, stand up and walk towards me. She goes, so what the hell did you do to your knee? What'd you do to your hip? She can just look at me and tell me what's screwed up. She can watch me move. Half the time she can watch me just sitting there in the chair, and she goes, oh, damn, what did you do to your shoulder? So yeah, and that's the other thing too, is finding somebody that knows what they're doing, that knows their craft. They can, and
you can trust them also. Yeah.
And they can work on big people.
Yeah.
Because, there's a big difference between doing an adjustment or doing a massage on, a 60-year-old soccer mom, as opposed to doing, a 40-year-old power lifter.
I actually had more than once, and specifically this one time, I remember a masseuse/physical therapist. After the first time, we scheduled an appointment, and the day after she calls me, she's like, listen,
don't come
I don't know how to tell you, but I can't work on you. Like, it's too much work for me. I can't do anything with any other clients now. My hands are fried. Like, you're too much work. I'm like, okay, I get it. At least you're honest.
Yes. Well, you also don't want to be the last appointment of the day.
Yeah.
Also,
because they're already shot.
Yeah. So like I've got an ART guy up in Worthington, and he's great. He knows his stuff inside and out, and he's helped me out a lot over the years too. I've been going to see him for probably, I guess 10 years, at least 10 years. And he's been great, but I've gone to other ART people that, I left not feeling great. And, so it's like anything else, people in whatever field are a dime a dozen, but good ones are hard to find.
You gotta go through. So I went to several chiropractors where I know it didn't seed. Whatever they did didn't. Right. And they yes, it did. I'm like, no, it didn't. Like
I know my body well enough.
Yeah, I don't care that your table drops.
Right. Yeah.
This didn't audible. It still doesn't feel any different. Right. And they're like, no, it adjusted. I'm like, first off, what does that even mean? Because I mean, that's aside from the point. Yeah. Like there's that, but don't bullshit me. Yeah. But you have to go through.
Now, most of them, I wouldn't even let them look at my body, let alone touch it. But like, for example, with Todd, that was for me. Knowing for a fact, he's like, here, hold this guy's arm, feel it, you feel this. He adjusts it, and right away I can feel that it's looser and more mobile. I'm like, okay, I can actually get on board with this because I can see the result. Yeah. I as a bystander, I can see the result, not just the person alone.
Right.
But an interesting point you also bring up that you said it happens every 3 weeks, because like this heavy body tissue work does need also recovery from.
Yes.
It's not just a recovery, it needs recovery from.
Yeah.
So obviously working on something like that, you should probably plan it as part of your deload or recovery time where, once again, every 3-4 weeks. It's not something that you have to hammer in every single week after every single session.
I've got to like adjust my, so like when I see Inga on a Monday, I've got to adjust my training week. So it's no longer Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Now it's a Thursday.
All right.
Yeah.
I got to know what the deal with this is.
Oh, okay. So,
All right. Your Instagram has been flooded with this thing.
Oh, yeah.
For as long as I can remember.
so yeah, this is, well, that is the head of the Moby. The Moby is the largest commercially available, the largest mass-produced dildo in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 3 foot long, 50-pound dildo made by a company called Extreme Restraints.
Yeah.
And so
This is one of the recovery modalities. Yeah.
no, this was me.
A
This was,
massage tool.
yeah, this was me. This was me being me. Well, that and me. So we had a strongman competition.
I don't even know where to start.
Hey, I know. It's
Which
like-
end of it?
Yeah,
Go-
so there's a strongman competition called Strongest Woman in the World, and it was up in Alaska. And they threw, one of the events was throwing a 50-pound rubber salmon for distance.
Mm-hmm.
So and the same week that the videos of that competition, when the videos were coming out from that one, somebody sent me a video of the high school prank. These kids got one of these Mobies, took it into the school, glued it to the floor in the hallway, right in the hallway
I
where
remember seeing
everybody
that
gets
video.
Yeah. And so, all these kids are coming in off the bus. There's a giant dick on the floor. and they're all looking at it and laughing at it. And then you guys know the typical, the short wannabe athlete guy. Every high school's got one of them.
Mm-hmm.
He's too short to have actually been an elite athlete, but he always walks around like he wanted to be one. So that guy from that school comes running. They had covered it in oil, by the way. They had covered it in oil. So
Is this like on YouTube or something?
it's out on you got to find it.
Pull that up.
Yeah. And so
What is it called? The Moby?
yeah, it's called the Moby.
All right.
Yeah. And so this dude comes running in and he tries to headlock it. And he slides off of it and just boom, eats shit on the far side of the hallway. And they end up throwing a sheet over it.
Super glued school. I don't know what list it puts you on if you.
Moby dildo prank. Yeah, it's you'll go down a rabbit hole on that for sure.
Is it that first one?
Dude,
No, go back up to the very first one.
No.
no. Let's see. Parents down.
I hate to say, but you might have to put school in the search.
Right. Actually, here I know how to find it. So go to
Frank at the end? No.
go to because I've got a link to it, and so go look up Iron Podium.
Like a Google search, or
Yeah, Iron Podium. Yeah, so that was so. After seeing that, they put a note on the bottom and said, "Yeah, these kids put a 3 foot long, 50-pound dildo on the floor of their school." So me being me, I go, "Hey, wait, that's the same weight as that salmon they were throwing in that contest. That'd be funny as hell if we threw that in a competition." So then was born the strongman competition Dia del Dildo. So yeah, search for. There should be one where you can find past events. Actually,
Find an event.
find an event, and type in dildo for the search. Oh. Because, yeah, actually, this year's competition's coming up in 2 weeks. So click that. Yeah. Been naming them after Star Wars things here the last 2 years. The Phallic Menace. So there should be a link to the video. Oh yeah, scroll down. There's a YouTube link down there. Keep going. A little bit.
That
more.
one
Right
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me pull it up on the screen so we can all see it.
All right, so this kid, so it's glued to the floor.
Yeah.
So nobody's picking it up.
No. So they end up they threw a sheet over it.
Okay.
So it looked like this giant.
I remember they also tried to put a cone over it.
Oh man, damn it.
Is it on Instagram anywhere?
What's that?
Would it be on Instagram somewhere?
It might be. I have no idea how you'd find it on Instagram. It's been I don't have a link to it anywhere on my stuff.
Okay. So anyhow, maybe dildo prank or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so so I'm just like, damn, this would be funny as hell. And I went ahead and just came up with a whole series of events that we could do with it. So, we threw it,
So then you go to order this, like there's an order process, right?
yeah. So
is it you buy this thing online?
Yeah.
Or you just call? Like, I want the giant dildo.
well, I couldn't find the actual, I couldn't find Extreme Restraints website to buy it from them originally. So, but I saw it on Amazon. So
Next day.
Well, so I tried.
Will be delivered today by 3.
Right. so I tried to buy it.
Order now.
Oh my! So I tried to order it off Amazon, and they came back and said, "Oh no, we can't fulfill your order. Here's a refund." My wife saw the refund. I went ahead. I posted the contest up, and then I'm like, okay, once I get 11 people signed up, I'll be because these things are expensive as hell. It's like an $800 dildo.
Yeah. But it's an event now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. So I had posted the event, people entered, and once I had 11 people and I had enough money to buy the dildo, and but my wife, of course, was oblivious to any of this going on. So she sees the refund thing, oh, here, your money's back, and she's like, did you seriously spend $800 on a fucking dildo? And I'm like, well, honey, I can't have the dildo contest without it, but it's not out of our money. Mm-hmm. It's out of contest money. And she's like, if you spend our money on a dildo, I'm like, no, I am not. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was another one where I'm kind of surprised my marriage lasted past that.
It's just ticking away,
right? Well, and then the Extreme Restraints folks happened to catch wind of the contest. I was posting demo videos of what each of the events were going to be on Instagram, and a couple of them went viral. Mm-hmm. And so they caught wind of them, and they. I said, well, I had emailed them earlier. I tried to get them to sponsor the show, and they just, just blew me off. Mm-hmm. But they came, I said, well, I would love to have had you guys, involved in the show. And their internet person, their social media person's like, I got you. So they sent me another one. So they sent me another one free. And that one, but they didn't tell me when they were sending it. They just didn't send me any kind of shipping notification, nothing like that. So it just showed up. And then my mother-in-law.
What did they say? That the dildo of consequences rarely comes up.
So my wife's parents live with us. And so my mother-in-law saw that we have this big box out on the because they didn't bring it all the way up to the porch. They stuck it on the sidewalk and took off. It's a big 50-pound box. And so, my mother-in-law goes out and fights with it and drags it up onto the porch. And my wife, I'm at work, and I get a text from my wife, and she's like, did you get another fucking dildo? I'm like, why? She goes, because Mom just had to drag a big ass box up onto the porch. And so, yeah. Oh my God, that was funny. Mm-hmm. Another one where I'm surprised my marriage made it past that.
So how did the event go?
Oh, it was great, man. It was the day after. I was trying not to laugh at anything because my face hurt from laughing the day of.
Now, is this thing, because it's got a head on it, is it evenly weighted? Or is the dick head weigh more than the other end?
Yeah, it's actually got a giant set of balls at the bottom of it. So it's probably ball heavy rather than...
Well, that makes it harder to throw.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it made it harder. Yeah, so we threw... I had a throwing event. I had him pressing it like a dumbbell. So I had different variations where you could press it,
Well, now you got to figure, are you going to throw it like a timber?
Yeah.
Or are you going to throw it like a bag?
Yeah. And there's, and a couple of people, tried throwing it backward. Oops. Mm-hmm. They tried that way. And everybody's just trying to figure out the best way to throw the thing to make it work.
How's it bounce?
What's that?
How's it bounce?
Oh, it bounces pretty good. It's all rubber with a PVC center. That's how the head got removed, because And actually, I do have a video of that. Not the head didn't actually get removed, but the PVC that they put inside these things is the thinnest PVC I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know they made PVC that thin. So like the first throw.
There's a picture of it, but
There it is. Okay,
not the video.
I'll put that in
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what started the whole deal.
Well, that's a natural color one. So do you have both colors?
No, I just have ironically, the black one is cheaper by like $100. The natural colored one's like $900.
Yeah.
And that was even their social media person was like, hey, we'll send you a black one if that's okay. And we're not sending you one of the natural colored ones. I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. The one I have is black. That's
Yeah.
Now, how I got it, there's a friend of mine who had in with a drop shipping company. And he's like, hey, is this the dildo you're looking? Because I had said something about not being able to get it off Amazon. He messaged me. He's like, hey, is this what you're looking for? I can get it, Like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. He goes, all right, I got you. So that's how he got the thing. And, last year we didn't have a throw. So then this year will be the third year we're doing it. And I'm pretty much going to have to do it till the day I die, I think, because everybody has so much fun with it.
Now, can you take that PVC out and put like lead or something heavier in it?
I tried to put PVC. I tried to put more reinforced PVC. If you could pull up Instagram.
Or just fill the PVC.
Yeah. I'd say pull
up
Might
Instagram.
work, yeah.
Lead shot.
That would be one very heavy.
Yes, it would. I thought of it. And then my handle's Vachio, Vachio.
Oh, that's going to do that. Yeah.
Might come up on your.
Yeah, it will come up on Tracy, so we won't be able to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I gotta try a Google search. Chris.
Oh, okay.
Giant dildo.
That should bring up his
Instagram.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there I am right there. Okay. Eventually. Yeah. So scroll down. Little. Oh no! Keep going.
There's a lot of them.
Up a little more. Oh.
Click see all. Oh, there you go.
There we go. That. Oh.
Ah, damn. Doesn't let you. Nope.
That's all right. We'll get logged in later. I'll make a note.
I'll try logging in there.
Yeah. So I got some real PVC from Lowe's and tried to put that in to reinforce it so we could actually throw it without it snapping and breaking this time. And I guess I was a little too forceful putting it in and dislodged the head out of one of them. The other one's okay.
Yeah.
That one came off. So now I got to repair that one before for the third.
Yeah, maybe they'll send you another one.
I doubt it, but I might ask them.
Yeah.
But yeah, the repair video is going to be funny though, because Steve Slater, I was talking to him about it. He's like, well, if we do some glue and then I'm going to get one of those pen torches and kind of try and cauterize it. That one's going to have everybody wincing that sees that video.
Yeah.
And watching me go around the whole thing and burn it on there.
Yeah. That reminds me, years ago, I write these Instagram posts. They're all sarcastic. I call them Fat Dad Functional Conjugate Training. And it's just, I would take stupid shit to be able to write, because everybody makes training posts, right? So I'm making a stupid training post and making it as stupid as I possibly can. Then I'd put potential sponsors like Rolex, BMW.
Those are great.
And I put in Fleshlight, so I put that in there. And I'm doing this several times. And then they DM me.
Really?
I'm like, what exactly are we sponsoring? And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, now wait a minute. What? And so I kind of explained it.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, we'll send you product, right? And I'm like, okay. Like at first I'm like, this is great. I can do like a raffle and give this shit away. And
like you would have been able to get it away from Wendler.
well, this is after that. This wasn't that long ago. This was maybe 6 years ago. And so they send this box of stuff and it's like all these fleshlights and flesh readers and lube and all this other kind of shit. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I can't give this away on Instagram. Like, I'm going to send this to some 14-year-old kid, man. His parents are going to lose their shit. and Lily was out here at the time. Right?
Yep.
So
I
we're like we're going through all this shit. And so then I'm like fascinated by this fleshlight thing. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then shortly after that, Joe Jordan comes out and I'm showing him all this stuff. And then he like unscrews the bottom of this fleshlight. And I'm all confused at this point because I didn't know. I'm like, what the fuck what is that for? And he's like, well, to pressurize it. So it's tighter or looser. And I'm like, how do you know? It's a lot of things processing at this time. But when I saw that bottom came off, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And this was a butthole one. They sent me all buttholes for some reason. Not one of them was a vibrant vagina. I'm like, if I put smelling salts in the bottom of this and then I put it back in there, then you stick your nose in the butthole, you don't know when it's going to hit.
Right.
Like when you have a normal salt, right. Right. Smelling salts, the breakable thing.
Yeah.
I always liked them the best because you know exactly what you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
The bottles, sometimes you don't know. It depends how far you go. I'm like, this is going to be like mystery shit. Like you're going to be in there and you're not going to know. So Lily films this and I set this thing up and I'm doing this ammonia through this butthole fleshlight thing. Right?
Not many people can say they've done that.
Well, exactly. And it did very well on Instagram, by the way. But it knocks your head off. So then it's like whoever's coming out, like you got to try this. Long story short, long story short, it disappeared out of here. I have no idea. People are like, where'd the fleshlight go? I'm like, I don't know.
Someone has it in their house on display, and you don't want to know.
Or they're fucking it, or somebody threw it away.
Oh, dear God.
But the whole rest of the box ended up being thrown away because I'm like, what am I going to, oh my God, there we go.
Oh, yeah, that's where I broke.
That looks way bigger than that.
No, that's just saying.
You made the angle look like that. Looks like it's like 24 inches round.
He's been practicing taking those pics.
A sewer pipe for the PVC.
No, it's a 4-inch pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a standard 4-inch pipe. But yeah, that's what.
Oh, standard.
So you can
standard.
You can load that. I mean, you could load that.
Yeah, that's what I'll probably work on.
Duct tape the dick head back on.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna get I'll get the dick head back on as best I can.
Do they have uncircumcised ones?
I didn't know. Not that I know. God, that would be funny. Oh hell! But yeah, so I got that one coming up on May 3rd.
All right. Well, since this would be a good segue because the dickhead broke off. Is you got into this is so bad. This is gonna sound so bad. I apologize. You got into the adaptive strongman.
Okay, you should apologize for
I'm
that.
so bad. I'm sorry. It was right there. I could not do it. But you're one of the first ones, right? To get into that.
Yeah.
So what? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
That's a good
Was that? No, I'm just looking at the picture up there.
Accidents happen.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah, I know.
Can't laugh at people
I
like
can't stop. I'm just like, if you have a broken dick, does it qualify?
No, but you have to prove.
Was there circumcised? Jesus Christ. All the divisions, man.
Oh my God.
Let powerlifters catch that. They'll make that a new division.
I'm like, I got the prosthetic.
The world record.
I'm surprised it's not a powerlifting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I got the prosthetic uncircumcised dickhead. I broke my dick. It's crooked. Doesn't qualify. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop. Anyhow, when we circle back, I gotta move the dick off the table. It's just making me laugh too hard. All right, how did this come to be? Hey guys, if you're enjoying what you're watching, make sure to take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe.
So that was another one, as per usual for me, fairly goofy, off the wall way of happening. There's a podcast, something or other, called RX Power Hour years back, and they had a guy on there from Canada, a guy named Jeff King, and he had just gotten back from World's Strongest Disabled Man, which is something that Magnus Vermagnuson was doing over in Iceland. And he made a comment on the podcast. He goes, yeah, it'd be nice if I didn't have to go all the way to Iceland to compete. I'm just like, wait a minute. There's nothing here in the U.S. There's nothing in Canada, really, for adaptive strongman at all. Iceland's it. And, yeah. And that's what it bothered me. And I got in touch with him. I'm like, seriously, there's nothing, nobody's doing anything with this. And he's like, yeah, no, nobody's doing anything with it. And I'm like, well, shit. Okay. That's, so I didn't feel confident myself doing it.
No, wait, because you've been promoting for a long time, right? At one point in time, you promoted the biggest event that was in the state.
Yeah, in the sports,
400 athletes.
400 athletes, yeah.
Where does this fall in there?
This was several years prior to that. I started promoting in 2013. I ran the first adaptive show in the U.S. in 2015. This year's show in October will be your 10th anniversary show.
So you had promoting experience
I had
before this.
Experience, but it was one of those things I didn't, I don't know, maybe a little imposter syndrome or whatever. I didn't feel like I was up to the task, perhaps.
Because of the...
Because
figuring the events out, or because you didn't know what the demographic, how many people there would be?
Just everything with it,
Because there's a lot of unknowns, right? You don't know how many people would even be interested.
Yeah, how many people are interested in, how to do everything, how to organize everything. It was all up in the air. And I tried to get other people that were more experienced to take the mantle of it. And one response was, "Well, there's no money in it," which that just pissed me off even worse. And so I was grousing to a buddy of mine named Phil. He is, you're a big dude when you're in the sport of strongman and you're known as Big Phil. Mm-hmm. Phil was a very large human being. And Phil, and he passed away the year before I ran the first adaptive show. But he just looked at me and he goes, "You run good contests, you fucking do it." I'm like, okay, that's fair. 6'5", 420-pound guy tells you to do something, and I'm like, all right, fine. Mm-hmm. So I just basically started figuring it out. I did talk to Magnus a little bit.
I was going to say there's some history of Magnus.
I picked Magnus's brain a little bit. He was helpful-ish, but not super helpful-ish. So I'm just like, I talked to a couple of people, a couple of adaptive athletes are like, hey, is this going to work? Am I going to kill you guys by doing this? What can we do? Played around with it a little bit. And after Phil passed away, I did a memorial show for him, and then did the adaptive show along with it. Basically, I used the open show to pay for the adaptive show, and because that was like, I'm like, okay, well, this is the way I'm going to be able to do this and not go broke.
Well, I would think the hardest thing with all that is how do you figure out the events when you have different?
That's been the biggest. It's the biggest thing about adaptive strongman is you really have to be adaptive and flexible as a promoter to figure things out. And that's been the biggest thing the whole journey, is just figuring out what I can do to challenge them and not kill them, not make things worse. And it's definitely, and now that I've got a base of people to talk to with the athletes, I can bounce ideas off of them and be like, okay, is this stupid? Is this going to kill you? Is this...
Well, I'm thinking more along the lines of, if they're competing against each other, but you have one person that's missing an arm, right? And then another person that's missing a leg.
So we ended up doing different divisions. So we've got a standing division, which is typically like a below the knee amputee.
Okay.
We've got a seated division, and then we've got a standing one arm division now. I'm responsible for that. Prior to that, there was no one arm division, but we had a guy at our gym, James Spurgeon. He came up to me, I think, 2017, 2018. And he's like, hey, man, he goes, I would love to do your event. He goes, but everything you have is two-arm bias. And he's like, his right arm doesn't work. So he just kind of flops his right arm at me. He's like, I can't do two-arm stuff. So I'm just like, all right, well, what can you do? So we spent that day kind of figuring out what he could do, how I could modify the events. So that I modified the events and I gave people options. I went through and studied. I spent several days digging up log press. I had a log press as my initial event for the standing guys. And I'm like, okay, well, he can do a monster bell. So let me compare monster bell, max monster bell with max log on the same athletes to try and get a decent idea. And I had to throw out outliers like Dimitar Savatinov had the world record for the max dumbbell at the time. And his dumbbell was like 80% of his max log, which nobody else on the planet got close to that. So I had to throw him out as an outlier. But, I went through all the amateur contests I could find, all the pro contests I could find, came up with about like 63%. And then adjusted my weights. It's like, okay, well, here, you can do either the log or the bell at these weights. And adjusted things I can to make. And I actually got a lot of flack from the other folks. Magnus didn't give me any shit about it, but some of the other folks involved with Adaptive Strongman over there, over in Europe, because it started, a guy named Gary Clark started running things in England, and then some other folks got involved. And so, some of these other guys, were pissed at me. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, it's Adaptive Strongman. I'm adapting it for different disabilities. We got a guy with only one arm, but he still wants to compete. So I'm doing what I can to make that compete. And they're just like, oh, well, you know what? If he comes over here, we're not adjusting our events.
Wow.
So, I was fucking livid. The guys.
That is such a weird.
Yeah, and
take.
Yes. It blew my mind. I pulled my guys aside because I had a couple of guys that were fucking animals win my show, and they were going to go to World's Strongest Disabled Man. I pulled them aside. I said, listen, guys. I said, this is what they're doing to James. They're doing James dirty. It's like, hey, we'll give them an invite, but we're not adjusting the events. I don't want a non-American sniffing the fucking first place thing. Destroy these motherfuckers. Bury them. And they did. The one guy swept all 5 of his events. The other guy swept the first 4 and then didn't even really need to do the 5th. And he just did like a token thing on the 5th. But the Americans absolutely dominated that one. And I was very happy for that because they really pissed me off. And then like shortly after, then they were like one of James's videos went viral and they're like, oh, hey, we need to get on board with this. But that's how the one-arm division came to be. Gary Clark's got cerebral palsy. Gary was instrumental in getting the seated. I call it the seated neuro. They call it like class 3 or something like that. But they were calling it the CP division for a long time. But it was, we needed to have one for people conditions like that because there's most of the seated class was for people like, above the knee amputees and whatnot. Yeah. And there's a massive, massive difference between a healthy athletic person who lost their leg above the knee, in a car wreck or whatever, as opposed to somebody who doesn't know what the hell their nervous system is going to do from one day to the next. So, we wanted to try and get it, level playing field somewhat, let everybody compete, let them challenge themselves, but within somewhat of a level playing field.
How many divisions are there?
So now we've got basically 5. We've got the seated neuro, standing one arm, and then what was the other one? Oh geez. We have kind of a standing neuro, but it's not. It's for people with very mild CP and stuff like that, but it's not really that much of a division because hardly anybody ever goes into it. So it's mostly just, standing one armed, seated neuro.
And how's it grown since you've been doing it?
It's grown pretty decently. We've had ebbs and flows. At my watermark, I had like 30 athletes in it. Now I'm typically 17, 18, 20, somewhere around there. So it's good. The first year we started, we had 6. And we only had seated standing. We didn't have the neuro division, and then we added that afterwards. After Gary, because Gary So mine was actually the first one outside of Iceland, and then Gary did one like a month after mine, and so yeah, we got the Nero division in there, and so it's grown, and I get with I get where, you know, okay, we don't want to have like 40 divisions,
Yeah.
you know, and everybody gets a trophy and whatnot. So I mean, but you know, we want to keep it at least somewhat level. We don't want people going out, you know, where because of the condition that they have, they know they've got no chance against an otherwise able-bodied person who, you know, who's just missing a limb. And
Do you still do any promotion of the regular strongman?
oh yeah. So I still do a lot of regular strongman promotion. I just ran one last weekend, and this past weekend I ran one, and I try to run a couple 3 regular strongman competitions a year. Dildo show, and then
So that's what,
so I run
over 2 decades of promotion?
well yeah
3?
no, decade and like 12 years.
12 years.
So 12 years, and I've always run 4 to 5 shows a year.
So what advice would you have for him?
Oh
And that's besides participating in
yes,
Yeah.
he's part of almost every single big show there is here.
Yeah. So there's that balance too of, you know, running and competing, but he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And you've been doing this for longer.
Oh man, there's like earlier in my career, from 2009 until 2019, I didn't compete less than 10 times in a year. It was my wife got on my case about it and was like, "Can you please not compete, you know, 10 times every year?" So I took it down to 9. But I've actually done so many shows now. I've competed so many times. I've lost count. That's like I stopped counting around 100, and that was 4 or 5 years ago. So, compete. I do way more of this than any sane person would. For running multiple shows, you definitely got to have a good support staff. You've got to have some quality volunteers that can help you, because the volunteers are going to make or break the show for you.
I was about to say they can make or break it.
Yes, the quality of your volunteers really makes or breaks how good or bad the show can be. You know, and your job, your job as the director of the show, of course, is, one, fill in wherever anything needs, but then also clearly communicate to your people what needs to be done. That's the biggest mistake I see people make as promoters, is they don't clearly tell their volunteers what needs to be done. They don't clearly, they've got 5 judges, and they don't clearly communicate to all 5 judges what the rules of each event are and what the standards are for a good lift.
Assuming people should just know stuff
Right.
that they think
So
is the known.
yeah, so I mean, you'll go to I won't name the major event, but you will go to a major event that has multiple lanes, and they're doing an axle press. They're doing an axle clean and press, and the rule clearly states there's no resting on the belt. But you will see in lane 2 and 4 that the judge is letting people rest on the belt and then fit it and then go to their clean, and the other lanes are all judging strictly and not letting people do that. And I'm just watching going, okay, that's the fault of the promoter. How the hell did you not clearly point that out to your judges? So like when I ran nationals in 2019, that was the 400 people show, largest single day show in history at the time. And I had 8 judges, and I made sure all 8 of them knew exactly how I wanted every event judged. We sat down, we got together, and like, all right, listen, this event, these are the rules. I want it by the book. Here, boom, boom, boom. This event, boom, boom, boom. This is how I want this judged. Everybody was clear with it. We had no problems whatsoever all day long. Everybody, I had all the job assignments for different people. Everybody knew what it was they were supposed to do, when they were supposed to do. I had a good friend of mine as my right-hand man, and he kind of took care of things where we had extra people that were just kind of waiting to fill in for stuff. If people needed breaks, whatnot. And so
Floaters.
Floaters. And so he was kind of in charge of that, checking in if anybody needed anything. Okay, here, let me get a float in for you. You go to the bathroom, you go grab a bite to eat, whatever, boom, boom, boom. But everybody knew what was expected. Everybody knew what they were supposed to be doing, when they were supposed to be there, because I clearly communicated that to everybody. And then my job was just to run around and put out fires and adjust things as needed and take care of things, take care of the overall stuff. But that's the big mistake I see a lot of promoters, man. They don't communicate to people what needs to be done. They just assume that everybody knows what they need to be doing. So you watch at their shows and they've got 5 people as volunteers that are absolutely working their asses off, driving themselves into the ground, and they've got another 5 or 6 people standing around going, because they've never they didn't give clear instructions for everybody for what they're supposed to be doing, where they're supposed to be. And
so how do you do that, but then compete in the thing?
Oh, well, I've not competed in my own event.
Okay.
That's one. You don't compete.
That is so.
Okay. I misunderstood.
Yeah, I have only competed in my own events a couple of times. Back running Static Monsters. The only way to qualify for the Static Monsters World Championships was to actually compete in Static Monsters. And of course, I was running the show, so one of my friends was there. He was a competent judge. He knows how to judge strictly like I do. So I'm like, all right, I need you to judge when I'm up, and then for a few hours, while I'm catching my breath after my attempts. So we would trade in. He would judge for a minute, and then I'd go ahead and judge after he was done. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, when you've got everything set, otherwise that was pretty easy. And those were also smaller contests. Those were you're talking 25, 30 people.
And generally, just 2 events makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, I mean it was a max log press and a max 18-inch axle deadlift.
So then, how do you go about? Because if we look at it from a customer standpoint, how do you go about keeping the same customers so they come back? But at the same time, the sport's going to have attrition. Yeah. So you got to always be bringing in new ones at the same time. So how do you balance that? Because being older, you're gonna fall more towards taking care of the people that are there and not trying to fill the ones that are going to be leaving. Right.
The honestly, I mean, strongman. At the amateur level in particular, strongman is all about cool T-shirts, cool awards, and cool social media posts. I mean that's really what drives it. Mm-hmm. So as long as you have events that look cool, that they can get cool, they can get a lot of likes on Instagram when they post their videos from the contest. If you got a cool shirt that they make sure you have a nice looking shirt so that they can get compliments on it when they're walking around somewhere, when they go into the bro gym, whatever. That's pretty much, I mean, I hate to say it that way. That's pretty much it. If you've got cool stuff, that's what's going to draw people in.
But that's built upon making sure it's an organized, good event, right?
You have to make you have to make sure it's a good organized event. But yeah, if you get and then cool awards. I mean, people will. You're giving out a sword. It's like you give out a big sword. You give a big sword or an axe, and they're just like, oh hell yeah, I'm in. Even if they don't have a prayer in hell, you'll get an event where you've got a 260 log for reps, and the guy can't press 210, but he's like, I might be able to win a sword. So he goes in and enters anyway. Everybody, so people get fired up about different stuff like that. So I always try to put a lot of effort into finding the awards, giving out cool awards that people are happy to show off, and cool shirts, get some good artwork on there, and spend a little bit of time, spend a little money. If you have artistic talent, spend some time on the artwork. If you have no artistic talent like me, pay someone who does, to get some decent artwork in there that looks cool. And and then cool events that are good for photographs and good.
People will go out of their way to go to a meet or competition that has cool events.
Yeah, and if you have a reputation for running, like I've got a reputation for running good contests, so people know if they come to one of my contests, they're not going to be, they're not going to be hanging around till 8 or 9 at night. They're going to be able to come in, do their thing, and be done by 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Go get something to eat. Still have the rest of the evening to have fun, whatever.
And knowing that it will be fair, and
no, it's going to be fair. It's going to be well run, and so that also goes a lot with it too.
Well, with the time that you've been in the sport, it's gone from being in the parking lot of a Motel 8, to where it is now.
Yeah.
Where do you see it, say, in 5 years?
Realistically, probably the same. Reason being, the only way we're going to, one, I don't know that it would be a good thing if we got a lot of extra money into the sport. I don't know that I would want to see a strongman world where, we've got people making millions of dollars as strongman competitors, because that's when you're going to get all kinds of prima donna douchebags that are just getting in it for the money. And you're going to have a lot of crazy regulation and other crap to deal with from outside organizations. I think it would suck everything that's good out of the sport.
You think so? Because
I do.
That would be kind of like saying that the NFL has ruined the high school football experience.
Well,
because at the amateur level, it's still going to be
but like
fun.
Well, it's the thing is, like, there's not fun football after high school or after college. Strongman seems to be one of those, in a lot of strength sports, I'm sure
I get what you're saying.
Where this is a lot of people that they get into it later. Like maybe they never got to do anything athletically in high school, so they want to get into it. So it's a hobby for 99.9% of people. If we get a ton of high-level money into it, then we remove that hobby bit, I think, to a large degree.
Even if there's a separation between the amateur and the pro?
I would think so. So we have a lot of people that are trying to, we have a significant, they're a minority right now, but they are significant in trying to make it more serious and more professional and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, I get where you're going, but you're also, the heart of it is just doing goofy stuff and having, because most of the people who are in the sport are, work-a-day folks, have a regular job, that are trying to do something that's 180 degrees away from what they do from 9 to 5 through most of their life. So, it's a hobby. I mean, even at the pro level right now, there's probably 3 people in the United States that can pay their mortgage and pay their car payment on a regular basis from the money that they win competing in strongman. And, out of, let's say we have 10,000 athletes, which is probably a stretch, 3 of them can pay their mortgage and their car payment on a regular basis. It would be cool if that went up. I mean, I would like to see people actually be able to make a living at the sport. But yeah, I don't know if I'd ever want to see it go mainstream, like mainstream. And in the U.S., I think it'd be a tough sell anyway.
So what if we propose, let's say on the flip side, if we take something like wrestling, WWE, etc., all of that has made it a lot more accessible and popular for local level wrestling.
True.
No, use because I was just thinking the same thing that you are. Use MMA
or MMA.
MMA is better, right? Because as you were talking, as I think you were kind of going, I'm thinking there are people that just do Brazilian jiu-jitsu with no aspirations to compete.
Right, yeah.
But what they have though is the belts. They can be rewarded by the belt, right? Where in the strongman you don't have divisions,
tiers, or
like in powerlifting, and it's less known today. But as we were doing it, there's class 5, class 4, right. Class 1, class 2. So you could still strive for all that, but be separated from that. But where I think you were going, and I'll let you continue, is that in the MMA you still have the people that are
the hobbyists.
Exactly, yeah.
But I
want to do it on the weekend.
But I'm not in it, so I don't know. Like, do the hobbyists think, if I just worked harder, that this is where I could go?
Right.
I'm not in
I
that
know,
community.
I know a lot of people, strongmen, powerlifters, strength athletes, CrossFitters even especially, that once they're done competing in that sport, they'll go into judo or jiu-jitsu or something similar.
Yeah, but to his
and
point,
they'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
this is where the strength sports, and I don't know if it's good nor bad, is, and we're old enough to be able to see it. There's a lot of people that are still competing that probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right, just for health reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, they're using PEDs, or they weigh too much. There's, but if there was like, you're retired now, like in the NFL, you're done. Like in other professional sports, you're done, right? And they make up a pretty big percentage. So that's kind of where you're going. Is there's a whole population that fit, not the older ones, but just everybody in general. That you play high school, you just don't move on. Like even with rugby, right? I mean, I guess you could go back and play club, if you made it.
I would not want to go.
No, nobody would do it, right? The same as like most powerlifters that would get to a higher level are like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like Brian Shaw's probably not thinking, hey, look, I want to come back and do this masters thing.
Nah, probably.
But maybe, you never know, because the meathead it's a strong identity.
Yeah, Big Z does. He does
Yeah,
the Masters.
yeah,
He enjoys it.
Yeah.
Oh, Z's like a. I mean, you know Z. He's like a big kid, man. He is.
He loves the sport.
Yeah, continue with your thought though, because I'm interested to see where you were going.
So yeah, my thought was on it that if you do bring up the main attraction of the sport, the people that actually can earn the bread and butter out of it and can pay their mortgages and so on, that does bring a lot more professionals and attention to the sport, which, granted, I'm all against standardization, but having the ability to invite more coaches, more coverage, like even for your events, if they're an amateur event, just knowing that we don't have 3 professional athletes that we can choose from. We have 100 professional athletes that can come down and just be a guest, help out all the amateurs.
Yeah, and I would like to see it get into something like that. I don't think I'd ever want to see the case where we got $1 million contracts and holdouts and weird crap like that.
Oh, no.
But yeah, all that crap. But yeah, I would definitely like to see it evolve to a point where we have more than 3 people. I mean, like Inez is the first this year. She won the Rogue. She is the first woman in strongman in the history of the sport to be able to pay her bills with the money that she's won in strongman.
And whilst it's amazing that that's moving on, we'll have 100 top athletes that are breaking their backs, like changing their life just to do this, and only a handful of the top 5 are actually being paid.
Yeah, I mean,
not these 100 that could have contracts.
Right.
They could be doing way better.
Yeah, so. And it's like, now I know over in Europe they've got a circuit.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of guys that are, they're probably never going to win World's Strongest Man, but they can actually make a halfway decent living because they can compete a lot and pick up money and stuff like that here and there. Where U.S. we don't have it. I would love to see us get to where we could support a circuit of pro strongman, where people could, where more than 3 people could make enough money to pay their bills and stuff like that.
No, there's definitely a handful of professionals in Europe that are competing every other week. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And making enough that this is their job plus coaching.
Right. Yeah. This is what, Novikov. Novikov, didn't he? He did 18, 19 contests one year, and people were like, why are you competing so much? Well, I need the money.
Well, the reason why I ask is it seems like in a lot of strength sports, it's kind of plateaued. Like there was a growth phase that I think they all just went through. Yeah. Prior to COVID. Maybe even during COVID, maybe still a growth phase. There was a growth phase, but it seems to kind of plateaued, if it's powerlifting and if it's strong. Even I could say bodybuilding as well, but they kind of got over the plateau by just making new divisions. Yeah. So that's still kind of growing, but if you look at the men's bodybuilding, that's probably kind of at this plateau as well.
I think strongman is, on the contrary, the most growing right now. In the last 5 years, we had the most payouts, the most professional competitions now.
Participation, overall participation.
Participation, the thing is, I mean, there are only so many people are crazy enough to do this.
Well, that's my point. I mean,
the growth in the sport, to me, if it's going to come from anywhere, we need to improve our appeal to a broader spectrum of people to get
sure,
because there are only so many people that are that are crazy enough to do this, and there are even fewer people that are crazy enough to do it over a long period of time. Most of the people are in the sport, 3, 4, 5 years tops, and then they're off to something else. Yeah. I'm definitely a huge outlier of, being around as long as I have. And, I hope to, continue doing strongman stuff till a few days after I die.
So that's why I wonder if it's plateaued, right? Because in powerlifting, the number of competitive powerlifters last year might be twice the number of powerlifters when I was competing.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So you're going from, 90s, 2000 to, 2025, right. So over 25 years, because you got to keep filling the bottom, because there's that attrition rate. Yeah. But that growth happened for a lot of different reasons. You can say CrossFit, you can say social media. There's a lot of things that feed into that to be able to spur that growth. It's in front of more eyes. Yeah. We don't have this that we know. I mean, because like AI and all this other stuff, but is that going to create more social media? Because the social media has definitely helped.
Yes.
Right. With that growth. What else? You see what I'm saying? Where's that growth going to come from to take it to double it again?
I think we need to make it more spectator friendly.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
Because there's a lot of downtime in most strongman events to where, and you look at all the popular sports. I mean, all the popular spectator sports. There's something going on all the damn time. There's, even the combat sports, okay, they've got women walking around in their underwear in the middle of the stage between guys beating the shit out of each other.
And commentators breaking down whatever happened on replay over and over.
There's something going on all the time where strongman, even with commentators trying to talk in between, there's still a lot of dead time. And
setting up the events, the weights, moving.
And so there needs to be a shift to make it more of a spectator-friendly sport. And then the other one, at least in the United States, is we have the PED bias, where we, started off with, during the Cold War of those evil Russians are using steroids and
evil Russians and the Germans. Yeah.
Yes. So we don't want our boys don't use steroids. So, anybody that looks like they've got too much muscle was, suddenly a steroid. So we've got that weird bias. We've got that anti-strength bias for some, that we somehow need to get around. And then, like I always joke around that we've got the 3 F's for strongman. We've got friends, family, and fetishists, and that's pretty much it. You've got the bear chasers looking at the men's division. You've got the guys that want to get beaten up by the women, for the women's division, and then friends and family, and that's pretty much our spectator base. But I think we have a lot to offer if we have a better viewing experience where we've got something going on all the time, and they can go, okay, I can watch this person do this, and then I can turn and watch them do that, and I don't have to worry about this getting broken down and
This is definitely something I'm trying to work on here for the US, but in Europe we pull in a minimum of 2,000 spectators, sometimes way more, upwards of 5,000. Yeah. And those people stick there through the 3-4 hours of the competition.
Yeah.
Watch it.
Yeah. So, and me running, so when I ran USS Nationals, I can't remember my exact numbers for my spectators, but I think I had around maybe 1,000, 1,500.
That's pretty good.
Well, yeah, which was really good for here.
For the U.S. especially.
For the U.S. it was insane. Yeah. And, but like, you'll see, over in Europe or, other things, it's like, you look around and like, wow, this place is packed. This place is packed, and you've got people that, they drop $15, $20, $30, $40 to come in and get a seat to watch this, and they're here for the whole time.
That's the cheap ones. Yeah, like I've paid upwards of 50, 60 pounds to watch a show.
And then, here in the U.S., I've got people that whine about paying $5 to get in, to see a local show. They're like, well, I'm only here to see Big Jim. I'm like, all right, would that work if you were at a football game and, I'm only here to see Tom Brady.
Okay, so back to the appeal, appealing to a greater audience. And with what Ilya was saying, my question to you would be, when you're running the outdoor events, right? You're going to have the friends, the family, the bears, and the whatever we want, the schmoes or whatever you want to
bear
go.
chasers and the schmoes.
The bears and the schmoes. But when you have those outside events, you're also going to have people that are walking by, gawkers, that stop.
Yes.
Right. And normally when they stop, they're not just stopping for, say, World's Strongest Man in Myrtle Beach would be a good example of that, right? There's the gawkers, but the gawkers stay.
Yes.
For a while.
Yes.
Oh, in Europe, more than half of our audience are
like a long
gawkers
while.
that stopped and watched the whole 3 hours.
Which means the audience is kind of there.
Yeah. That's the trick is we got to let people know. We got to do a better job of marketing to let people know.
Yeah.
Hey, this is going on. This is happening. You may enjoy stopping and watching this and watching us do all this goofy stuff with heavy things.
Yeah, but say if they don't do that per se so much at Muscle Beach, and they're not going to do it if you had a powerlifting meet outside someplace either. Right. They're going to do it because these are more relatable things that people can relate to.
Yeah.
Like that's heavy. Like they don't know.
And that's one of the other big things I've talked about with a lot of folks is that we need to do more. We need more stuff that regular people who don't lift can instantly go, damn, that's heavy.
I know, but can't this be can't this kind of be a nemesis? Because if you have it indoors, then you're able to charge. To be able to pay the athletes. Yeah. Right? Because there's admission. Now, if it's outdoors, you're not going to be able to charge.
Right. For the people
for the gawkers and stuff.
But then you make it an appeal towards the sponsors. That you can bring a crowd of onlookers that will potentially look at your product. Yeah. And advertise it to them.
Yeah.
But I think this is one thing right here that the athletes need to understand. That, to be able to get to that point, there's going to be some growing pains.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to get there because, I can see their position. I want to be paid now, right?
We all do. Yeah.
Wait, I'm going to speak like them. I know you guys are making a ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Which is bullshit, right? But they know it because they're going to do the math. Like
they're gonna
you drove here on your Lambo that you got from the previous competition, right?
They never do the expense math. They do the income math, but they don't do the expense math.
Funny story along that line. So there was somebody that initially tried to take me to task on the adaptive side. And it was like, you're an asshole because you're exploiting these adaptive athletes for your own personal gain. So I said, oh, really? I said, because I keep a profit and loss sheet for each of my contests. So I posted my profit and loss sheet, just took a screenshot of it, and I posted it. I lost that show. I lost about $1,200. And so I posted my profit. I said, boy, if I'm exploiting them for my own personal gain, I really suck at this personal gain thing. And they're like, whoa, well, you shouldn't have put it in such a nice venue then. I'm like, so wait a minute, you went from me exploiting them to now I'm being too good at them and I should try and exploit them harder? Is that what you're telling me? But because people, it was like, when I ran nationals, same thing, people were like, oh, well, man, you must have made bank on that. I'm like, dude, I paid $37,000 for the banquet after that. Oh. I said, yeah. I said, I paid probably about, I paid another $10,000 for this over here. Oh. It's like, yeah, I made $7,000 for that contest. The biggest single day contest in the history of the sport. I made $7,000 and almost got divorced.
People don't realize the amount of cost that all of that takes, especially once you start getting more and more people involved in all this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
Well, it's a huge thing where they don't want to help you make up the deficit.
Right.
It's like, hey, look, I lost $5,000. Go back to the competitors. Can you guys help me contribute, to my GoFundMe to get this back to zero? They don't want to do that.
No.
Right. But they see that.
You shouldn't have given out as nice of a award stand.
Exactly. Well, then nobody's going to show up.
Right.
Because you already said awards and t-shirts.
Yeah, and that applies. That applies across the board. Even at the big shows. Give out cool awards. People will show up for it.
Yes.
Shitty awards. They won't be back.
Well, that becomes a problem with promoters over a period of time, right?
Yeah.
Because why would you continue to keep doing it?
Right.
You know, and that's another, and it's in powerlifting
You have
as
to
well.
be really invested in this.
You
A lot
really
of
do.
People try to promote this thinking that they'll make money out of it, or this is how they'll make the money back from losing money on competing. And it gets even worse, and then they give up after the first year.
Yeah, I love seeing those illusions get crushed.
Yeah.
You know, on the mistake I've seen repeatedly on the powerlifting side is, you know, new show comes up and it's a huge amount of prize money, you know, 50 grand, whatever it's going to be. And in my mind, I'm like, you idiot, like spread that over. If you got that money from a sponsor, spread it out over 3, you know, build momentum from it and be able to do that. But they hit that first one, then they can't get the sponsor revenue for the second one because there was no ROI for the sponsor on the first one.
Yeah.
Then why are they going to dump money back in when there was they lost money?
Yeah.
You know, and the advertisers want to make money.
Right.
You know, which is the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so it becomes this wheel that the athletes then have to be able to figure out how long is this one going to last before we have to jump over to this one and get out before it actually drops. So
I think our best hope is if we have a couple of schmoes and a couple of bear chasers win the lottery.
or billionaires,
Yes.
you know.
Still trying to find that friendly billionaire that wants to throw a ton of money at us and make
Yeah,
us
that'd be
a real
nice.
sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. if there's anyone out there,
What? Yeah.
my contact details are somewhere on the website.
Yes.
Why the hell can't Elon Musk be a bear chaser, man?
Yeah.
Right?
And so what are you working on now?
What's that?
What are you working on now?
So I've got the biggest thing I'm working on right now is I've got the Adaptive show coming up in October, and that's out in Atlantic City, New Jersey this year on October 13th, and it's part of the a friend of mine runs shows out in New Jersey, so she floated the idea to me of taking it out there. I've been around here ever since, for most of it. Most of the time I've been doing it, but she's like, hey, we've got the Mr. America Expo. So, and it's kind of like a mini Arnold. It's not as big yet. I think over time it probably has the potential to reach Arnold levels or close. So I think it's going to be a really big event as it goes. It's a pretty solid sized event now. And but it gives them a little bit bigger of a platform, a nicer venue than what I can usually get around here.
What about your own training?
My own training. I'm training for USS Nationals coming up here in the end of June. So going for the 50 plus. Yeah, I'm working back from my right arm died during COVID, and I guess I was doing enough prior to the lockdown or whatever. I was doing enough to keep it from falling off a cliff, and then when I couldn't see anybody for that period of time, it bottomed out. So and then I hurt myself rolling over in bed.
That's normally how it happens, right?
Classic strength sport injury.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so of course the old the bridge and roll. Yeah. So I did the old bridge and roll thing in bed, and something snapped, and I had just gotten back to where my pressing strength was halfway decent. I did that and went right back to zero, to where I could barely do 10, 15 pounds with the right arm, and been working back from that. So I'm now almost to where I can almost press as much two-handed as I can press with this one arm again.
No, that's a good question. I should ask a lot of my guests is like, how do you get out of bed? Right? Because when you're flat on your back with a CPAP, it's better for me now because I weigh way less than what I used to before.
Do you sleep on your back?
Yeah. Yeah. The CPAP kind of forced me to do that.
No, it's always sideways.
Whereas, for me, a long time it was sideways. But I mean, do you do the leg kick? You got to pull a leg up, you got to kick, and then you got to grab the nightstand right at the right time and do you're with the neck bridge. Like there's techniques that you have to develop.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm all legs only.
Yes.
Just a leg kick, and then that gets you to a seated right to a seated position. So it's not a side.
Practicing that.
It's not a side dismount at all.
No, like leg kick and off the bed.
Holy crap, that's great.
That's kind of how I do it now. Yeah, because I can't do the. Yeah, if I start turning over and now I wake up real quick, like, don't do the neck thing again. Don't bridge.
Yeah.
Granted, I'll do the leg kick and then I'll sit on the edge of the bed for about another solid 2 minutes after that, just contemplating why I'm out of bed.
Yes.
But
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
And did you have any topics you wanted to go over I didn't bring up?
No, we covered. We went through a pretty wide gamut. Yeah.
Do you have any questions for him that you wanted to throw out?
No, just a small question. Well, less of a question. Actually, following back an interesting point on the development of the sport.
Yeah.
Because let's say powerlifting, you probably remember more than anyone. But back when you started, probably you couldn't go to a gym and find a monolift and a squat bar. And
They didn't even exist when I started.
like over time, that has become the norm now. Where
Yeah.
you can go in Europe, we don't have any monolifts. Like I'm actually surprised when I find a gym with a monolift, but like a squat bar, a deadlift bar, that is a normal practice. It has been nice seeing in the sport, and this is like why it's good to have this like level of growth.
Yeah.
Like with all the gyms that we travel to, I can go to a random gym and they'll be like, "Yeah, we have strongman stuff."
Yeah, no, that's a very good point because when I mean back I got started in 2008, 2009, and like nobody had strongman. I mean, the only way I could get an implement, get my hands on the implements was to go out to Steve's or go out to it involved at least a 30-minute drive to get to anything where I could get my hands on an implement.
And that's how you train. Like like part of that recovery and training plan. When we can say now you have 1 or 2 or 3 days a week of this. It wasn't an option. Like when I started with Clint, it was I would show up on Sundays and it would be a Sunday strongman training day where we go through 6, 7, 8 events as if it was a contest day and be destroyed after that.
Yeah.
But that was strongman training. And then the rest of the week is regular training.
Yeah, it's like now you can the access to them is so much better. And oh my God, the amount of homemade crap that
Almost everyone has a welding kit now, yeah.
Right. Oh well, no, just from back, back when, back in the earlier days, the homemade stuff, it's like you go out and it's like there's, jagged edges from where the guy just learned how to weld, and it's, all I could get was 14-inch pipes. This is a big 14-inch thing, and
Or the stone that's like a cheese grater. I'm personally responsible for one.
Yes. Oh yeah, the cheese grater stones and the farmer's handles that is like a pipe screwed onto a like a. Oh my gosh, yeah. There's a guy that used to run shows out in Xenia, Ori Barnett, and I don't know that he did. I don't know that he smoked pot, but I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure he watched the old strongman, the 1970s, 1980s strongman events, and then smoked a little weed and then came up with events of his own. So he came up with some of the craziest old school thing. But the running joke, they were cool kind of. Yeah. We got kicked out of a parking lot one time. So
that's an achievement. That's impressive.
Yeah. So we get kicked out of this one abandoned parking lot and had to reconvene in another abandoned parking lot. But I mean, we always joked, it's like, man, if you're doing one on Ori shows, make sure you got your tetanus shots up to date. It'd be this bizarre, rusty, we're loading stones on the pallets that got nails sticking out of
about to like fall apart.
Yeah. And that was just, it. But it was fun, man. It was a fun time. But yeah, it's evolved so much.
So much where you can go to any gym and there's actual real equipment from whatever manufacturer it is.
I would love to take some of the newbies back to one of Ori's shows. Take them back in time to one of his shows from, and they're like, what? Like we had a Viking press. Oh my God, this is the jankiest Viking press ever. So he's got this long post and he's got the old like a
bicycle handles.
Like girls' bicycle handles.
Amazing.
I mean, they still had like the little dangly, there's still remnants.
Does it have a
still
bell?
still remnants of the little, whatever, and we're just out there, and it's like got a combination of duct tape and some kind of, whatever straps holding us. We're just okay. Pressing there's tires on the bottom of a chain to it. That's the weight that we're pressing.
That's amazing. I'd have the bell ring every time you wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been great. Keep your that's your down signal.
Yep.
Yeah. Little basket in front of it.
He took the basket off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that was, so yeah, we had all this janky, put together equipment. I mean, a lot of contests we had, that was the case.
That does lead me to the question I did want to ask is, what is the craziest implement or event that you've seen in your whole experience? Because you've been around for a lot of it.
All right. So the bicycle handle bar one was up there. The other probably...
Or something that's so crazy that it would be absolutely unsafe to do now.
Oh, I mean, well, they were all unsafe. I mean, no, probably the most unsafe, crazy one that we had was it was at one of Ori's shows. He had this. It was a car rim on, like, welded to the end of a stick, and with a little foot plate on the bottom of it. And it was up about eyeball level. And we had to load Atlas stones up onto this
rim.
This rim
that's standing on a plate.
Yeah. So that was one of the crazy. Yeah, that was one of the craziest ones. That's probably still that's probably the craziest and least safe one. He had another one where we pulled a wire spool. You're seated arm over arm pull, wire spool up steps. So you're sitting at the top. So you're sitting at the top of the steps, and your arm over arm pulling, and just pulling there.
And the ropes rolled up on it.
Yeah.
That is madly brilliant.
Oh yeah. I mean, it actually ended up being.
That is madly brilliant.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a tough event too. But it was just the looking of it was just kind of like.
And the reset's fantastic. You just roll back down the stairs.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. Love it.
So yeah, it worked out well, but it was definitely a bizarre event. Yeah, the most unsafe, crazy one was definitely that tire load to the rim.
And it held.
It held. I mean, it kind of. I mean, it's like
I like the kind of.
It just like you would get it up there, and like if you weren't careful, it was going to like tip over the other. If you tossed it hard, it was going to land and bounce out, or land and take the whole damn thing over to the side. So there was a lot of near death experiences.
It sounds like loading a stone to a tripod.
Yeah.
It's basically loading a stone to a tripod is essentially what that was.
Wow.
Yeah. So
how can people go about finding you?
I'm on right now. I'm on Instagram only. I'm on. So my last name, Vachio, that's the easiest way to find me. I'm on Instagram. I will probably eventually be back on Facebook, but they somehow decided I was attempting to advertise drugs and guns.
Huh.
Yeah, so they sent me a note, said you're banned from advertising because you're trying to advertise guns and drugs, which was news to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just said, no, your whole account's taken down because you're just drug runner guy, apparently.
It was news to all of us.
Yeah.
Because we're like, why didn't you tell us
that
you were?
No kidding. I wish I had the drug runner money.
Yeah. Like, what do you got? What do you got?
Right. So I'm off Facebook for at least 6 months. And so yeah, Instagram's the only place I'm at right now, social media wise.
All right. Any final thoughts?
I mean, get involved in the strength sports of your choice. Have fun with it. It's a blast. I've had such a great time with strongman. I've met so many awesome people. I've got experiences that I couldn't put a price on. So get out there and have fun with it. Do stuff.
That works. I got a gift for you here. There's a shirt in there. There's a training journal.
Oh,
and then
awesome.
in the journal, I have a coin
Yeah.
that I make. It's the people that I give it to the people I feel embody why I founded the company in the first place, which is to live, learn, and pass on.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Which you do a phenomenal job of doing. So keep doing what you're doing.
Oh.
And with that, we're done.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having me out.
All content you see on this channel and at elitefts.com is created by, take a guess, Elite FTS. If you want to help support the content, head over to elitefts.com and pick up literally anything that you need to be able to get more jacked and strong.